Welcome in, guys, to the I-80 Boys podcast. Once again, I am actually the real host of this show, but I play this off like I'm really not, and I got to share the spotlight with this clown over here. Again, I never remember this guy's name.
You know, Chris, one of the early signs of dementia or Alzheimer's is when you just start spitting nonsense, like that. He can say he's the real host. We all know what it is. Yeah. I'm, a co-host of sorts on this show. Your boy, old Christian Hunt.
Oh, yeah. See you again. It's all good, man. You got that Vandy shit on tonight, man. I got to ask. I thought you were a Georgia boy, but then I'm wondering why you're representing another team for the SEC. I don't quite understand what the hell is going on there.
Part of the reason why I'm wearing all the Vanderbilt stuff tonight, Chris, you're absolutely right. I am a Georgia fan. But the reason why I'm wearing all the Vanderbilt stuff is I think Vandy pulled a pretty big upset last year against Florida, if I'm not mistaken, a certain team from the SEC East here.
Yeah, a team that I don't much care for, but I will hop on board with you. I'd like to argue that, but I can't actually. That's a cool thing, though. Guys, by the way, if you haven't noticed, Vandy's only supposed to win 3.5 games. Vegas, I take the over this year. Sounds crazy, but seriously, that's a good bet. I put my money on that one. They're going to win more than 3.5 games this year. Anyway, Christian, enough about Vanderbilt. This is not a Vanderbilt show. What do you got going on here? Looks like we got some stuff popping up in chat here. What we got, Christian?
Yeah. I mean, Crypto says need to give something away. I mean, man, Chris, I don't know. It's funny he brings that up. I tell you what we're going to do. This is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do 1,000 subscriber giveaway, right? So basically what we're going to do, guys, we need as many people as we can. If you're already subbed to us, comment under the video that obviously you're subbed. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away a PS5, an Xbox Series X, some mini helmets, and a custom jersey of your choice.
Holy shit. We're doing that?
Yeah, we're doing that, by God. So you better get your checkbook out.
Damn. Whoa. Yeah, I'll have to bring out definitely bring out the checkbook and I'm going to have to skip on my mortgage this month. Holy shit. Let's go. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So.
All right. Awesome, baby. I love it, man.
Mike says, I subbed last week on my first show. Well, let's go, son. You're already in the contest.
You're already in it, buddy, Mike. We appreciate it. And by the way, guys, we do thank you guys a ton for the support so far throughout the show. I know we only started a couple of months ago. We're a young and upcoming channel. Mark my words. Trust me. You guys are going to hear about us on the big stage here shortly. So appreciate it, though, guys. Christian, I'll kick it back over to you there. I had to add that in.
No, you're not wrong at all. Crypto says Stafford all the way. He knows what it is, man. He knows exactly what it is.
Oh.
Don't want to get Chris fired up about that. If you got, everybody, it must have been pretty late last time we were on. I mean, we kind of had 15 or 20 minutes of, we clipped it and put it on there, by the way. Go look at JT Daniels and all the reasons why he's better than Stafford.
It's all good stuff, man. It's all good. That was Oh, I love this show. This show sometimes is watchable, Christian. You guys let us know in the comments whether it is or whether it's not. Christian, though, I got to ask here. After we're going through the chat here, I mean, what are we starting to show off tonight with, man? I'm fired up. I'm ready to go, man. College football season's right around the corner, boys. We are so close, man. So freaking close. I'm amped up. I know I'm a college football geek, but I am super hyped, man, for this season. A lot of trash talk. A lot of people in multiple comments this year on our videos talking shit, man. I am ready to go.
Yeah, Chris, you're absolutely right. I want to do this first here, though, Chris. Before we start getting all hyped up and we get into the main bits and pieces, let's have a little dessert before we have some dinner here. All right, so we're gonna do this.
Whoa!
We got a good friend of mine here. All right, saying go Gators. Listen, this is exactly what I'm talking about right here, all right? Mr. Sheeran, go. By the way, if you're in the greater Tennessee area, this man does great work. He owns a company Beyond Detailing. He does an amazing job. He detailed my cars when I lived down in Nashville. Hit him up. With that being said, Will, I'm sorry for everything I'm getting ready to say about your Gators tonight. It's all love on this end. It's nothing personal. I've got 5 of my best friends are Gators fans, and everybody else, they just hate me because I'm a Georgia fan. So,
Woo. Damn, man, I want to stand up for this guy. Sounds like a great dude. I do. It doesn't surprise me you're too lazy to detail your own car, Christian. You would pay somebody else to do it. But that doesn't surprise me. I like this guy already. I feel bad this podcast because I'm going to harp on Florida. So Christian, what we got, man? What we got? Where we at?
Man, let's do this. We're gonna let there's somebody wanting to call in here, so we're gonna let him kind of file in and do his thing. He's got some questions to ask us here, so let's let him kind of get on, and then we'll get on with the show here in just a bit. They're asking for some of our preseason top 25 teams. I mean, we'll probably circle.
Got him right there.
He's got them right there.
Helmets up there, man. I got 1 through 25 up there, boys. Christians will be all effed up, though. He'll have Georgia there, even though they have 2 losses this year. It's still at number 1.
No, son. I mean, listen, I'm very realistic about my Bulldogs. I even said this year I think that hey, they could be in for maybe a couple losses, man. Right?
You could be in for. I am the one that has them going undefeated. I do. You're right. I can't harp on you too bad for that. There he is.
Welcome into the I-80 Boys show, and we've got Children of the Corn here live. Can you hear us?
Oh, I got you, brother. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing pretty good. I got a feeling you're going to call and get us all kinds of riled up tonight.
Well, I didn't plan on calling in, but Crypto just absolutely insists I call in every single show. He just loves it.
Well, it's called the call and answer. You know what I mean? Tell Crypto to call in, man. Make him come on the show.
Yeah, after I missed Friday's show because I had a double shift, and he's like, dude, you got to go check it out. They got into a huge argument, and I'm like, it couldn't have been that bad. I mean, they're on YouTube. It couldn't have been terrible, and I watched it, and I'm like, wow, that was epic. I got goosebumps.
It was totally, because we got into a similar topic about that probably one of the shows one night. Like, it was a Friday night. We were probably 6-7 beers deep. And I just said that like in passing. I thought Chris was just going to agree with me. And then he pretty much had like that was the reaction I got was more tame than what you got, because he thought about it more and got more fired up.
I don't blame him one bit.
Thank you.
And I want to discuss this for a little bit because you like discussing stats and all that, and I love it. I love listening to you guys. I tune in every chance I can. But that's the best thing about it. You'll talk about it and you'll get over it. But Chris was heated. He was heated for a good reason, I think.
You hear that, Christian? I wasn't playing, man. I stand on that, man.
He was very heated, right? And then
everything
go ahead.
You guys argued about for the first 10 minutes was kind of, I could understand, but then when you said that Taylor Martinez could play in the same era that Eric Crouch played and do just as good. Did you ever watch him throw? You talked all about his throwing stats, and they were awesome. Thank God we had Kenny Bell to catch his ridiculous passes, because he throws like a 5th grade cheerleader, sidearm.
Hey, I didn't say he was going to be an elite passer. I just meant, hey, if you put him in that era, it would probably. I'm not saying he would have been like elite, you know what I mean? But I mean, he might have been able to do a little something,
Would have he been able to win the Heisman?
Hell no.
I don't know about that. That might have been.
I will say in Christian's defense.
You compared him to Eric Crouch. You got a Heisman winner, and then you got a stat leader at Nebraska, and he can win every stat he wants. He will never be Eric Crouch.
No. Here, I got to chime in here. I will come to Christian's defense, though. Actually, Taylor Martinez, because he had, if you guys remember, Husker fans here will remember this crazy freshman year that he had. Like he broke out in a lot of rushing yards, obviously. But I remember, I'll never forget this. His sophomore season, he was in the preseason top picks to win the Heisman. I'll never forget that, just because of that true crazy breakout season. Nobody knew who he was. Had this crazy great freshman year. But yeah, you're exactly right, though. Children of the Corn, Christian don't know shit. He's not the caliber athlete. Yeah, and we don't need to get into throwing motion. But I do appreciate I'll leave it at that, man. I do appreciate you calling in. Thank you. And secondly, thanks for backing me on this, man. I didn't mean to go that ham on Christian that night, man. But the whole Matthew Stafford thing, man, just doesn't sit well.
No,
I'm backing.
I need a thirdly here. He was comparing him, Taylor Martinez, to Eric Crouch. I got you one better, buddy.
All right.
How about you put Taylor Martinez on the 95 Florida team? Who was that? Danny Warfel was the quarterback?
Danny Warfel. No. Yeah, it was Danny Warfel.
Yeah, Danny Warfel, yeah.
In the fun and gun package where all you had to do was throw the ball. You didn't have to worry about running it. Would Taylor Martinez do as good as Danny Warfel, and would the Nebraska Cornhuskers not beat the living bejesus out of them because he's such a good passer?
No, Taylor Martinez wouldn't have stood a chance. Danny Warfel was a Heisman Trophy winner. So
and it's funny you bring up that team specifically, because one of the greatest components of that was that defense. And let's just put it this way, Children of the Corn, there's going to be something very soon. We're not going to do it this week, right? But it's coming.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little, who's better, I mean, you guys obviously have your opinion, right? The 95 Nebraska Cornhuskers defense or the 2021 Georgia Bulldogs defense. Ooh. And it's coming. Now, we don't want to get too hyped right now. It's a Wednesday show, right? It's a school night. There's children, so we don't want to hurt anybody in Chris's household there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's coming though. It's coming. Stay tuned to that one.
Go on and on, but Taylor Martinez is just a different era. He had different players. He wasn't as good. He can have every record in the book. Congratulations, but he just wasn't as good as Eric Crouch or Tommy Frazier or Brooke Behringer. And if you put him on any national team, you could even put him on the LSU team with Trevor Lawrence. You think they still would have won a natty?
You mean Joe Burrow? Hell no.
Or Joe Burrow, sorry.
No, not even close. Taylor Martinez is a totally different player than those.
No, I don't say that. I mean, listen, all I'm saying was Taylor Martinez, from a 40-yard dash standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, he was probably about a half second slower than Eric Crouch was.
He's fast.
He was quick in his own right? So, I mean, I don't know, again, I don't really know. I'm not really as up to snuff. I know about Crouch's ability to be an athlete, right? I don't know how good his arm was, though. Like, that's my whole point of it. I understand, Taylor Martinez probably didn't have the best arm, either. He still put up, 7,000 yards, though, in Nebraska?
Still terrible. You can throw a terrible ball as long as you have good wide receivers that catch it. It don't matter.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I guess, by that metric alone then, right, by that metric alone, Joe Burrow just threw terrible passes all the way through that historic season, and they just somehow caught him.
I mean, you got what you got. I don't know.
I
don't know what to come back with there, because you could go all the way back to Tim Tebow. Did he throw terrible passes?
He was in a good.
Tebow was a great college quarterback, but then he got to the NFL, and it just, the hash marks got smaller. I mean, it was a different class of athletes, and it just was,
And we've seen that with a lot of quarterbacks. I mean,
yeah,
college game and NFL game are way different, though.
Way different. You actually have an O-line and a D-line that can block, and NFL is more for passing than running. College is split, more running than passing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so we'll do
the way it is.
So we're going to do this, because you guys brought it back up again. I want to show you something, because I know a lot of people say, well, no, there's no way in hell, right? I'm going to do this, Crypto. We're going to end up letting you get back to watch the show here. I'm going to put up Stafford and JT Daniels highlights here for you guys to take a look at. And you tell me, if you can't see my argument, all right?
Do I get in on this, or are you cutting me off?
You know what? I don't know if... let's try it. Let's see if we can...
You got me off in this. I don't need to see it.
I just want the opinion.
Yeah. All right. Can you see that?
Yep. Mixtape, Georgia.
All right. Let's get on with this thing here.
God, it's gonna piss me off.
It's gonna be loading forever now. Every time we try to do this, it always does something.
Well, while it's loading, I'm just going to say, I agree with all of your stats and all of your points. I just don't see where JT and Matthew could, if they both just stood on the field and said, 1-on-1, we're going to do these drills. You got 20 minutes to stretch. We're going to be doing it for an hour straight. I don't see where he can. I mean, yeah, he might be a more precise passer, but in the NFL, you don't have to really be precise. Just throw it up and let him go get it.
Well, the good thing is about this whole discussion is JT Daniels is never going to find himself in the NFL because he can't find a fucking home in college. And I keep telling Christian this, but here we are.
If you got to go to 5 different schools in 4 years, you're probably
not any good.
What my parents told me is if you transfer once, you're not transferring again, because after that, it's probably not them, it's probably you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna argue with that. I mean, and it's a different era too of football, right? It's an era now of football where, kids transfer 2 or 3 times, right? Back when Stafford was playing, and this wasn't that long ago. I mean, nobody was transferring like that. I mean, you transferred, you sat out, pretty much. So
at least for 1 year.
Yeah. So I mean, that discouraged people from wanting to transfer. I think, part of the whole thing with JT Daniels, I think, was really just, really the thing with JT Daniels, man, was it was a lot more mental stuff, I think, than it really was anything else. I mean, he was a terrific athlete, terrific, not really so much an athlete, but he was a terrific quarterback. It's just we see this all the time, right? Where you get these really highly touted kids that come out of high school, they get to the next level, and they're not okay with sitting for 2 or 3 years, right? They're not okay with learning. Now, Daniels played his first year at USC. He got hurt. They replaced him with, I think it was Keaton Slovis, and then transferred to Georgia, right? Gets to Georgia, ends up doing really well. We get the starting job eventually, and pretty much got hurt, gave it to Stetson Bennett, and then Kirby said, hey, I think you're good to go. And they said, nope, we're not ready to go. We don't want to get hurt.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's for one team. What about the other 4 teams? What did they say?
Well, I'm trying to tell you. I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, rinse, copy, repeat. I mean, you go back to even last year. I mean, he kept West Virginia in that game against Pitt. And
congrats.
0. Nope. I say if you get hurt, you can transfer. If you just can't make it with the big dogs, then maybe you need to practice more on being a big dog. You shouldn't be able to transfer 4 times.
That's a little ridiculous. He's at Rice now. I mean, what's your excuse after this year, Christian?
Listen, I'm not disagreeing.
Where I was, they weren't letting me play varsity when I was whooping kids every single day in the gym, so I transferred because I knew I had the ability. Where I was just wasn't a good situation, and that's not the way they did it. But you shouldn't be able to transfer 4 times. I mean, sooner or later, the problem's maybe not them.
I agree.
No, I mean, listen, I agree with you on that. I mean, look, this was more or less from a comparison of a talent standpoint, right?
Let me take over this here.
Yeah, no.
JT Daniels, different era, fine. Okay, fine. But it's not that drastic that the transferring schools has become a habit. I'll give him that. That happens right and left. We see it with high school kids now, bounce around 5 different schools. Look at Dylan Raiola, right? I mean, I'm not saying the kid can't play. I'm not saying the kid don't have a hell of an arm. Problem is, though, I think most of these colleges, Christian, I can't believe we're talking about this yet, but it's like they see something in him where it's like, man, he ain't good enough. Whether it's injuries, we could talk about tons and tons of quarterbacks that were great high school players that could throw a ball a million miles. He don't have it, man. I mean, it's not a fluke after 3 or 4 times. It's like that girl that you date in high school, she's supposed to, ultimately end up with you, but, ends up saying the same thing to about 6 other dudes. That's where I'm at, man. That's where I'm at with JT Daniels, man. It's like, bro, we've seen enough. You're at Rice. You're at Rice, bro. Now you get me fired up, Christian. Get me fired up.
Terrible.
I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to I know what Christian's point is, and he's right about the fact that the kid was super, super highly recruited, and he has a hell of an arm. But we could say that about a lot of guys that come into the NFL. I could talk about Jamarcus Russell. I could talk about, Matt Stafford's a guy that has a huge arm. Josh Allen's a guy with a big arm. He's popular, right? We all know him. There's guys in the NFL. Baker Mayfield actually threw the longest ball ever in NFL history. Baker Mayfield ain't worth a shit, man. I mean, he might be maybe playing this year on his 4th team in the NFL after being drafted number 1 a couple years ago, 5-6 years ago. He's with the Bucs now. It doesn't mean shit, man. I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. I'm not saying JT Daniels isn't a talented guy. There's a difference between talent and then being a good or great quarterback. JT Daniels talented, but man, it doesn't seem to work wherever he goes, whatever excuse you want to make. Eventually, it comes down to that. Joe Burrow transfer from Ohio State to LSU. We saw how that worked. I'm not upset about the one transfer thing. That's fine, especially in today's era. We could talk about your boy. I brought him up that night, didn't I, Christian? Your boy Justin Fields, right in your backyard. Right in your backyard. Where'd he end up playing?
Yeah. Well, he ended up at Ohio State.
Yeah, and he went to Georgia. And not Mark Richt, but Kirby Smart kind of effed that one up. I think Justin Fields probably would have been the best quarterback to ever play there, personally.
Well, and that's part of what I was trying to say, too. I mean, listen, you got to think about it from the context. If you put Stafford, as a 18, 19-year-old kid, and they were both the same age, and you put him into this era of football, would you trust Kirby to make the right decision? I mean, listen, Georgia has 4 or 5-star quarterbacks on that roster every year, and we literally chose to play a walk-on. Right now, the first year we won the national championship, we won in spite of Stetson Bennett. I mean, we did. Last year, we won because of Stetson Bennett. So my whole point, I guess, and what really brings this argument out is, we're putting the highlights up on here now, right? Now, if I could get the ones on YouTube to play of Stafford, you would notice that most of Stafford's throws in college came from inside the 30-yard line. Now, you can also make the argument. Yeah, you're going to argue it. It was a different era of football, right? But we've seen it. I mean, you can go back and check out their highlight tapes, at college or in high school, and you'll see, hey, JT Daniels probably was a little bit better thrower of the ball. That was all my.
If JT Daniels would have played against the '94 Miami team, they would have had at least 7 picks, minimum. Their defense was crazy. This guy may be able to throw in high school, but high school to college and college to pro is different. If he would have played on a different team in a different era and a different time, this guy would have got picked apart and in a bad way.
Stafford got picked apart in some games too. In college. I'm
not saying
right?
Stafford did, but at the end of the day, though, obviously NFL scouts to me is knew what they were looking at. He was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Unfortunately, he went to the Lions, so obviously got to be a bad team to get the number 1 overall pick. He ended up being a Super Bowl champion as soon as he switched teams. That's where I love Stafford. I know Christian, you want to throw it in space that I'm talking about his NFL career, but Matt Stafford's been great his whole entire life. He was a great Texas quarterback in high school, won championships. I know he didn't quite do it there at Georgia, and he had a lot of weapons. A.J. Green, he had a ton of great talent there. I actually put that more on the coach, no offense. And then obviously got the NFL, played on a bad team. Some of that's team. You can't – we could talk about Dan Marino, my favorite quarterback of all time. Never won a championship in anything. Played at Pitt, went to the Dolphins. First year, brought him to the Super Bowl, got beat by Joe Montana. Never got back there again. But I'm not saying JT. Overall, I want to end this discussion. JT Daniels is definitely a talented kid. I remember hearing about him all the time. I'm not saying he can't play, but we hear that about a lot of guys. I think even guys in Matt Stafford's era that had a ton of talent probably didn't do shit. That would have been the Jamarcus Russells of the world. That would have been those guys. We all know how he panned out in the NFL as a number 1 overall pick for the Raiders. So ultimately, overall, I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to get too fired up because I think Crypto let me know that I got just all hyped up. I was a little hyped up. I apologize. Hopefully nobody took any offense to my antics. I know Christian did. He was butthurt by the time that discussion was over. He was hurt because I destroyed him. But here we are, man. It is what it is, man. And by the way, thank you, Children of the Corn. Thank you for calling in, man. I do truly appreciate that, buddy.
Yep.
Good discussion.
Well, yeah, dude, it was a really good discussion there. We always appreciate when we can get, fans calling in and everything like that. He brought up a lot of good points, man. Listen, it was a really good spirited debate. I felt as if, he makes a lot of good points. Mike also says a lot of good things too. Especially with the NCAA, they hand out immediate eligibility like candy. So, it incentivizes these kids. The first sign of anything goes wrong, right? They can just transfer, they can jump in the portal, and it doesn't really matter, right? So
no, it's a different era, 100%. I agree with that whole statement. I will, but talent is talent to me, and I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still going to rest with what I stated. So, anyway, let's get back into the main topic here. What we're going with, Christian? What do we got today, man?
All right. Well, let's take a look here, Chris. First up on the list here, hot take: Ole Miss loses to Tulane but upsets UGA or Bama. Chris, what do you think about that, bud?
This is week 2, right? College football season. I think it's super quick in the season here. Yeah. Non-con game. 14.5 point underdogs, Tulane in this game. I just checked today, actually. I was just looking. I've been putting some bets out there. I don't want to say super early because the season's around the corner, but if you're a college football fan, you want it to start tomorrow. Could this happen? I personally don't see it that way, but man, I watch a lot of shit. I listen to a lot of shit. I'm like a sponge. A lot of people thinking that. I mean, there's some popular YouTubers out there, Christian, that think that Tulane is going to win this game super early. The only reason why I just can't buy it, everybody's going to tell me on the other opposite end of the spectrum, well, Tulane beat USC and Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner last year, in a bowl game. Okay, all right. USC can't play any goddamn defense, though. And I'm not saying Tulane isn't going to put up points. They got Pratt back again. They got a lot of pieces back. Their coach has been there for a while. Tulane's going to be a very good team this season. If you guys haven't noticed, you probably can't see them in the background. I got Tulane like preseason sitting like number 19th up there. I got their helmet even. That's an ultra rare helmet. Hard to kind of find, by the way. The Green Wave, baby. But here's my thing. I don't think it happens. I actually believe in Ole Miss. I actually believe in Lane Kiffin this year. Lane Kiffin hasn't necessarily proven it yet at Ole Miss, but I think Ole Miss is going to be tough this year. I have them pinned at 8-4 at the end of the season. I do not have them losing to Tulane, Christian. I think this game is close. It is at Tulane. I don't know how hard it is to play at Tulane, though, Christian. Maybe you can riddle me that one. But it's going to be a good game. It's going to be hyped up. They're both going to be 1-0 coming into that game. I just don't know if Tulane, at the end of the day, can handle the physicality of an SEC school like Ole Miss, who's very, very physical, who's got, Junkins back there as a running back, who to me is probably the best running back in the SEC. Personally, he did it last year as a freshman. You know this, Christian.
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. At the end of the day, but upsets of Georgia or Bama, those games are later in the season. I think Ole Miss is going to be better. I have them up there in my rankings too. I think that they're going to compete with both those teams, but be able to beat them, they'd have a better chance. And I'm going to piss off the Bama man here. I think they'd have a better chance of beating Bama than they would Georgia. But this game is so super early. I just don't see how it happens with the physicality of an SEC school. I hate to stand up for an SEC man, but here I am. Christian, take it away.
Yeah, man, Chris, here's, like you said, I mean, they're going to play Tulane week 2, so it's early in the season, and it's at Tulane, right? So that's kind of a weird thing there. Tulane finished last year 12-2 and had wins against Kansas State, UCF, Cincinnati, and USC to end the year. So they can definitely play spoiler, right, to some of these teams. They've got a bunch of contributors coming back, a bunch of production, all right, from last year, including Michael Pratt and 4 starting offensive linemen. So that's good, right? They're going to be able to probably put some points up in this game, right? Ole Miss is going to have a new defensive coordinator, right, and a new defense for the most part. So they're going to be trying to get everything figured out the first couple of weeks, right? They play Mercer to start the year off. That's probably, I like Mercer. It's a Georgia school, but I don't think that's really going to tell me that much that I need to know early in the season, right? So this Tulane game is going to kind of tell me where is Ole Miss at. You talked about something very similar to this, I think, last week, and we talk about this, it seems like on a weekly basis here. Weird shit happens early in the season, Chris.
Oh, God.
Right? And this, to me, has a potential to be a trap game for Ole Miss, right? But that being said, a loss in this game could also help Ole Miss come together, right? It's kind of like LSU last year, right? They lost to Florida State early on in the season. That was kind of like one of those games that, that LSU team that lost to Florida State early last year wasn't the same one that finished the year off, right? So, yeah. To me, they can come together and play some more inspired football. I can see them pulling an upset against Bama or Georgia, definitely, right? Lastly, I would say the same way I'm giving Tulane a chance to upset Ole Miss, right, in that week 2 game, right? I think, again, teams can be hot or cold given any day, right? We've already touched on Alabama's offense. We know they're going to probably be really streaky this year. It would not surprise me, right? Would not surprise me if Bama came in at Ole Miss and had probably a really down game against them, and Ole Miss came away with a win, right? Lane Kiffin needs that, I think, this year to do that, right? And finally, when we talk about Georgia, right? We don't really know. We know Georgia's probably going to be really good on defense again this year. We've got some offensive pieces coming back, but the critical part is Carson Beck. Haven't really seen him as a full-time starter this year, so I kind of say not to the same degree about Bama, but, this kid, how's he going to do against a team from the West coming in, right? It's not a school that you play all that often. Weird things can happen when you start playing like out-of-division games, and I really think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This to me, as far as a hot take's concerned, not that hot of a take. I could see something like this happening because every year it happens in college football.
Right. And we're just going to probably bring up one of our next topics here pretty soon, Chris. I'm assuming we're going to talk about some potential upsets, are we not?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So that leads us into the next situation here, right? Potential trap games, Chris. Who you got as some potential trap games this year?
Okay. You got to give me the floor here for about 5 minutes, Christian. I know it's hard for you to do. I know you like to dominate the mic. I'm just fucking with you. But no, here's my big top 10 potential trap games this year. By the way, I want to start this segment off. I saw a lot of comments on our Duke can play with Clemson basically segment a couple weeks ago or last week, if it was. Christian, you saw these comments. People saying we're full of shit. By the way, we both said that Clemson's, in our opinion, is going to be Duke. So I wish people would actually listen to the podcast just instead of taking it for the title. There's a potential out there for Duke to beat Clemson, though. Actually, if you guys don't watch us, we're small YouTubers. Watch some other YouTubers. A lot of people actually, believe it or not, have Duke beating Clemson week 1. So to get the start off, this is not my takes. These are potential upsets, though, that I think can happen over the season. They're very interesting. They may change later on as the season goes, obviously. But I'm going to bring this one up. And this is, I can't believe I'm even bringing this up, Christian. I know you don't agree with it. I definitely don't think it's going to happen. But a lot of people talking Colorado over TCU week 1. My opinions, hell no. I think that's a 21.5 point favorite for TCU. I think they win by 28. That's just me personally. I put my money down the other day on that. Duke over Clemson, as we talked about, as I just spoke about, week 1. Potential close game. I actually think that game is going to be very close. First game of the season, guys. Texas Tech over Oregon. I picked this 3 months ago. I don't know why I feel this way. I just think Tech is super slept on. You see some sites, some YouTubers bring them up a lot. Tech's got Tyler Slough, who used to play at Oregon as their quarterback, had a big year last year. Christian, you know this. One of those games that I think is going to be super close. If you look at it on paper, everybody's going to pick Oregon just because they've been one of the more dominant teams the last 10 years. I understand that. But then we got Texas over Alabama. Christian, me and you both agreed with this one to piss off the Bama man. I don't even need to talk about that. That just one of those takes. Here we go. Ole Miss over LSU week 5, Christian. I know, and I'm going to let you have your floor here in a second. I'm not taking that bet, but there are people out there, a lot of people that, maybe LSU is not as good as we all think. I'm high on LSU. I definitely know Christian is. Ole Miss, as we've just been talking about, I think is going to be a damn good team this year. I just don't know how good. I don't think they're better than LSU. Notre Dame over USC week 7. Notre Dame is a very interesting team. I think they're very slept on the entire year. They got Ohio State this year. They got Clemson. They got USC. People forget about this. Notre Dame didn't have the best season last year under Marcus Freeman. That was his first year, but they bring in Sam Howell, guys. Sam Howell came from Wake Forest. He's actually the all-time leading passing touchdown leader in the ACC. Sam Howell is definitely better than any freaking quarterback they've had in forever there, in my opinion. So Notre Dame is one of those teams that's kind of slept on, especially last couple of years. Wisconsin over Ohio State week 9. That one is a huge one. Wisconsin's at home. They could come into that game undefeated. Ohio State would have had to beat Penn State the week before to get into that game. that one's a very interesting game to me, especially I'm a Big Ten guy with my Skurs over here. I don't think it happens. God, I hope it does, though. The next one I got at number 8 is Miami over Florida State. These two are huge rivals. Some of these guys in the comment section here know about the Skurs. They remember the 90s. Miami, Florida State was a huge rival. That thing's been going on forever. Those two schools back then especially were top 5 every year. So is Miami pulled themselves out of the gutter? I don't think so at all. Personally, just me. Or Chris Boyle's done a great job over there. I think he's a hell of a recruiter. I just don't know if he has enough to compete with Florida State this year. I am ultra high on Florida State. Can't believe I'm saying that, but fear to spear, baby. Here we are. Penn State over Michigan, week 11, Christian. That's a big game. Penn State's got a tough schedule this year in the Big Ten. I don't know if it happens. I got Michigan winning the national title this year. I'll say it now if I haven't said it on air. I don't think it happens there, but I love Penn State. I actually think they also beat Ohio State this year. So interesting take. Tell me why I'm a complete idiot here in the comments. Tennessee over UGA, Christian, for my final spot. I know you wanted to hear it. I had to put it in there. It all depends on Joe Milton. I think Tennessee's offense is going to be great this year. My biggest problem, though, when you're playing against Georgia, I know Georgia's defense is going to be elite. We don't need to talk about it. We already know. Tennessee was undefeated when they played you guys last year, and you guys just destroyed them at home. Hendon Hooker got his ass kicked. I don't know if that was necessarily the outcome. I actually think the game is closer this year than it was last year. Problem is, I don't know if Tennessee's defense is such a question mark to me this year. I think Tennessee's going to be really good. We don't really know what Georgia's offense is going to be because we really don't know necessarily who the quarterback is. We also don't necessarily. I heard you guys had another injury in the running back room, but God damn, it's Georgia, man. I think they reload this year. I am not picking Tennessee to beat Georgia this year. Christian has definitely, I know, talked about a very big potential upset there. Only other problem is at Georgia too. So, or actually, I think is this game at Tennessee or Georgia, Christian? I don't even know.
I think it's at Tennessee.
It is at Tennessee. You're right.
Yeah.
They played at Georgia last year. It was kind of an ass kicking. I'm a big Hendon Hooker fan, but I'll leave it at that, Christian. I'll kick it over what your potential upsets are. Hopefully, I'm assuming you have a couple of these on your list. I want to hear your side, buddy.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, there's again, obviously, let us know in the chat what you think, who the potential trap games this year are. The Ole Miss LSU one, that was pretty interesting to me. I don't think Ole Miss pulls that off. I mean, could it potentially be a trap game for LSU? Could be. It's a very real possibility, right? First off, I'll kind of start here, Chris. My first trap game, I've got Ole Miss at Tulane, right? It's early in the season. The game is at Tulane, right? We kind of touched on that in the last segment here, right? Because Tulane was 12-2 last year and gets back enough production to pull an upset. Texas at Alabama. Early season game. Bama has a bunch of new pieces and coordinators that need to get on the same page, man. And like I said, Texas should have beat them last year if they would have had a quarterback that could have walked out of that stadium, right? But they didn't. Here's another interesting one. Michigan at Maryland, right? The game is at Maryland. You got Talia Tagovailoa, who is back and should make this interesting. And let's be honest, dude, Mike Loxley, he's a damn good coach, right? I think, all right, I absolutely think here that Michigan and Maryland could possibly do something interesting here, right? Next game up, Penn State at Illinois, right? Illinois, I think I said that right. I'm finally figuring this out. I don't want to piss off the Fighting Illini fans. It's at Illinois. It's a week 3 game, so it's early in the season. Brett Bielema will beat somebody this year he doesn't have, he shouldn't be beating, right? He does that every year.
Oh, yeah.
Clemson at Duke, we touched on that. We pissed off a lot of Clemson fans. Oh, well, get used to it, right? It's the first game of the year for both these teams. Game is at Duke. Duke gets back a ton of production. Clemson needs to get back on track on offense. So they're trying to figure a lot of this stuff out, right? South Carolina at Georgia, right? Historically, South Carolina plays us very tough.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's the first real test of the season for Georgia. Now, you got to remember, South Carolina has Spencer Rattler and Shane Beamer. So this Shane Beamer, he needs a statement win. So this could get very interesting. It seems like everybody that coaches South Carolina at some point gets a big upset over Georgia early in the year. So I'm just waiting for it to happen. This might be the year. Again, you never know what can happen at this level. Oklahoma at BYU. All right, this is a later game in the year. It's at BYU.
Okay.
All right. If Oklahoma has a rebound of a season here, BYU always plays tough, right? And what could be a very beat up Oklahoma team coming into that part of the season, right? BYU beats up teams, dude, when they play them. They have thrown off many. They may not always win the game, but they'll beat the hell out of some teams, right? So if somehow Oklahoma could manage to get into this game undefeated, that could be a potential trap game for them. All right. And lastly, Texas Tech at Texas. Okay. Last game of the year for Texas. Tech beat Texas last year. And also Tech, and you touched on it, right? They get 14 starters back, Chris.
Yeah,
I mean, so there's a bunch of stuff I look at from this that I'm kind of sitting here saying, there's a ton of trap games in college football this year. I mean, even if half these games, right, end up hitting, that's going to be chaos for college football.
Yeah, and I think that's what they need, though. I mean, this is what makes the sport interesting, right? If we all like the same freaking team, it'd be a boring world. So, no, I mean, you're right. I mean, Tech is a very interesting team. A few years, I'm going to have different opinions on. You're obviously having different opinions on mine. These were just some of the top 10 big matchups, I think, week in and week out that we're going to see this year. And guys, if we did this take like 2 weeks into the season, this would all change. We might see Clemson come out and shit the bed against Duke, right? And we might see Tech beat Oregon, or Oregon just destroy Tech. I mean, there's so many things. I'm going to bring it up, boys. Let's say Minnesota comes out and just beats the shit out of Nebraska, and we F around and get beat by Colorado, right? I mean, it's going to change a ton. This was a tough take, but these are games that I think are all going to be super interesting, especially in the SEC, where there is like 3 or 4 teams, I think, in the SEC: Arkansas, Ole Miss. I'll even throw in maybe Kentucky is a team that always plays everybody tough just because of their physical style of play. And probably I mean, I said 4. I guess I can only think of 3. Actually, I think Ole Miss, Auburn is a team that's kind of interesting too. You never know with Hugh Freeze. It's going to be very interesting. I think we all know who kind of runs the Big Ten. It's the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States of the world. Wisconsin, by the way, super interesting team. I think they can win the West this year. I hate to say that, Nebraska fans, but they got probably the best chance by far, in my opinion. I'm a big Luke Fickell fan. I think he's been super successful where he's been. But I mean, your top 10, Christian. I mean, I really have no order in this. It was just more teams and games that I saw. I'm sure you probably felt the same way.
Yeah, I absolutely did. I mean, again, I just was kind of searching through, some of the matchups, and some of them kind of stood out to me the same way they stood out to you, man. And that's the great part about college football. We all can watch a game, right? We can all watch the same game and interpret it 5 different ways.
Oh, 100%.
That's what makes college football so awesome, right? It's kind of like all those Alabama fans. We kind of pulled up some of their practice footage earlier, right? And it was one of the best things.
Jeez.
Say what?
Is that what you call it? Practice footage?
Yeah, dude. They were going back and forth. They were doing that rapid fire practice, quick hitting kind of thing, right? So they didn't. I mean, for like 5 plays in a row, they didn't complete a pass, right? The ball was nowhere near the receiver, right? I mean, it looked like a JV middle school practice, out there. And we've got these experts so-called out here telling us about how Bama's going to win again because they got Nick Saban and God only knows what coming back there. I mean, listen, unless Tua's going to hobble his ass up from Miami to play quarterback for Bama, I don't think they're doing shit this year. Okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, let's take a look here, Chris. I want to address another comment here before we get into this. I saw this. This was pretty interesting. This comes from, let's see here, Huskers in Hanover. He says, Colorado gets smashed by TCU with all the new players. Colorado won't be able to figure out which team they are playing for. Absolutely agree. And, to ask that question further, do you guys in the chat think there's any way possible Colorado can beat somebody this year? Can they beat TCU? Can they beat Nebraska? Can they beat USC? Some of these teams are going to have to play that I don't think they can, but I just want to get your opinion. Is there any way possible Dion could get them ready to go, right?
Dude, my thoughts, I agree with Huskers in Hanover here. I got in a huge Christian, I sent the screenshot to you yesterday because when I got hyped up, I usually either want to fight somebody or a keyboard warrior or somebody, I guess. I don't prefer that method, by the way, but that's the way the internet works, I guess. Over this Colorado thing, I think it was Josh Pate came out and said Colorado wins against TCU and Nebraska right away in the season. I just lost my shit. And it was not me posting the comments. I responded back to how ignorant some of these Colorado fans are, saying, we're beating TCU by 14. We're whooping Nebraska's ass by 21. And I can't get on that level, Christian. And I don't understand it, man. I know a lot of, I don't even want to call them Colorado fans or Deion Sanders fans. They don't even watch, obviously, college football. And it's like, dude, these guys are so far behind. And it's, by the way, guys, I've said this a couple times. Doesn't mean that I think Deion Sanders can be a bad coach. It's they were the worst team in college football in the Power 5 last year by far. And they might be the worst team in the Power 5 this year. Like, it's not easy to win at this level. It's different from Jackson State. They don't, just because you have 2, 3, 5 stars and 100 3-stars doesn't mean you're going to be good. Utah has 3 5-stars sitting on their freaking offensive line. Like that's my point. It's like, if you guys think that TCU is going to get beat by Colorado, I think you guys are insane. I said that on air the other night. It's crazy to me, Christian. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts, Christian, about this Colorado thing. We said they looked small. We got ripped and torn apart on the internet for saying that, which is hilarious to me because any major YouTuber or anybody that follows college football with a freaking pulse has been saying the same shit that we've been saying. This is easy. This is an eye test type of thing, Christian.
Yeah. I mean, listen, here's my real take on Colorado here. This, some of their skill guys that they have, they're pretty good. They're on par with, I'm not gonna say they're on par with like a USC or anything like that, but they're on par to be like a middle tier Pac-12 school, right? With some of that talent that they brought in. I mean, they got a couple 5-stars, right? They got some 4-stars. They got some guys that have played in the SEC at the skill position. You touched on it, Chris, right? It's the line of scrimmage. It's the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And they, we said, hey, they look small. Fans retorted back, this ain't it. This isn't who's going to be coming in yet, right? Okay, fine. So then you look at who all they got. They got a bunch of guys that played in very small conferences or very small schools that had losing records, and that's what Colorado fans, not all, but a lot of them that are just Deion, dick riders want to tell you, and that is, well, you gotta think of it this way, right? I mean, all the guys from the 1-11 team, we had to get them off the team. Okay, well, so by that logic, Jimmy Horn and some of the other guys you brought in from USF, another 1-11 team, by the way, right?
Thank you.
And some of the teams that you brought in that had losing seasons and were used to losing, what does that mean, right? Do we just discount that, right? You cannot discount that, man.
Right.
They're going to struggle to hold people back from getting to him. TCU is going to get after Shedeur Sanders and make his life a living nightmare. And I don't care if they have 8 5-star wide receivers out there. If you can't block, you're not going to have time to throw the ball. Right. If you can't block, you're not going to be able to get 2 or 3 yards when you want to get it. All right? On defense, if you can't, we saw this last year, right, with Nebraska. I'm not going to bring names up or anything like that. It's a different thing. But just because we have a lot of Nebraska fans here, right, if you cannot control that line of scrimmage, right, if you cannot have defensive tackles, commanding double teams and clearing up edge rushers and backers to floater the ball, you are going to get torn apart in this offensive era of college football, right? It will absolutely do that. So you have to be able to do that, right? You cannot go, and I hate to say this, you can't go out to Connecticut or UConn and get their best defensive tackle and expect to be able to compete with Lincoln Riley's offense, all right? I mean, that's like Florida saying Graham Mertz is going to come in and be the savior that we need. And I'll get into that battle a little bit later on. I'm kind of letting you know what I'm saying here. But yeah, they want us to kind of talk a little bit about, the giveaway again here. Yeah, once we hit 1,000. Yeah, go ahead. I just want
to jump in on your Colorado.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Thank you. It's not because I just want to add to this, not to interrupt you, but it's more just like, we don't think that Shedeur Sanders, he might be a good quarterback. He might be, Christian. I mean, he might put up some good numbers this year, but it's going to be by default because they're going to be behind the entire time. We both know that he's probably going to get killed. That's the thing that kills me. It's like he's going these Colorado fans don't understand that their offensive line was so bad last year. They sure shit didn't get any better this year because they had a bunch of guys that are half the size of Christian out there trying to block for the quarterback. And Christian's a big motherfucker out there, man. Let's be honest. I'm not a dummy. But, I mean, my point is, so, guys, this whole Colorado topic, we're going to have another take on this by the end of the year because, like, it's not because my beloved hatred for Colorado. I just don't get it. If they win 3 games this year, that's a miracle. That's more than double what you won last year. And that doesn't mean Dion is a bad coach. That doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders can't play. That doesn't mean Travis Hunter can't play. I think that kid's an athlete. He's a stud.
Yeah.
But they give it some goddamn time, people. I'm so sick. And that's not every Colorado fan. I don't want to say that. That's the simps out there, riding Dion. And they were either Deion Sanders fans when I was a kid. I was one of those too. But my God, man, college football is a different level. And a lot of these people I don't know that keep commenting on our channel, like, obviously you've never watched college football. Christian, I'm going to kick it over to here. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. I'm going to let you kick it over, and you'll probably drop something in the chat about the free giveaway. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, what we're working to do right now here as far as the giveaway is basically we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers as quickly as we can. We need everybody's help for this. This is a combined effort here. But essentially what we're going to do, again, if you're already subbed to us, fantastic, right? Just be sure we're going to drop a video probably here in the next couple days. It's going to say we need your help, right? Just go in and type subbed. Watch the video, like it, and hit subbed. Comment subbed on the bottom of it. What we're giving away is we're going to be giving away a PS5, an Xbox Series X, a custom jersey, right, from your team's choice. And I think we're giving away 2 mini helmets as well, right, of your team's choice. So if you win, hey, again, we're giving away pretty much 5 really awesome prizes there. So if you win, I mean, it's something that's going to be really cool all the way from an Xbox or a PS5 all the way to, a little mini helmet, which would be really awesome, right? I mean, that's stuff that we looked at and we kind of sat down and said, hey, man, we're not going to try to give away, a terrible towel or some shit like that. We want to give away stuff that's pretty awesome. Not that wouldn't be cool, but yeah, man. I mean, we're just trying to make sure that we get all of the support we can because we really love doing this for you guys.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's a big thing, Christian. Like I said, we're trying to do this. I mean, it's not about us, man. I love you guys that come in here every week and listen to me and him bullshit, and we'll talk college football, obviously. And obviously, I've been kicking Christian's ass the entire time on these hot takes. But no, I mean, it's one of those things, man. Guys, we love it. We love the fan base. We're here. We're not going anywhere. We're very bold. I understand that. We're not ESPN. We're not going to sit here in a suit and tie and tell you guys that every team is going 12-0. That's not us, guys. We love what we do. We really want to get more involved in the chat. We're working on that. Like I said, we're relatively new, so we're working through this. But we want to talk college football, guys. Not just Nebraska, not just Georgia, not just Florida, not just Florida State, not just Ohio State or Michigan. Man, we like this. I love college football, man. It makes it interesting. If you've been a Nebraska fan for a while, I hope you guys have been watching other football the last 20 years because we haven't been relevant, right, Christian? I mean, we know that. Georgia's came on late, right? Christian can wave around his 2 national title trophies and feel good about himself. But we decided to do this because we love college football. We love the input from you guys as fans. And like I said, guys, I truly thank you guys at the bottom of my heart for chiming in the chat, asking great questions, asking whether or not Christian's 3 bills. We don't know. We'll never know until he steps on a scale. So, but yeah, man, I make him laugh once in a while. But no, here we are, man. I appreciate it, though. I'll get off that topic. Christian, what do we got next? Or are we diving in the chat? What are we doing?
Yeah, we're gonna like I said, we'll come back to the chat here in a second. Let's get through the Florida take here, and then we'll like I said, we'll come back to the chat here to kind of end things off here. All right, Chris. So looking at it right now, Florida Gators. This has been a sore topic for a lot of people that watch our channel. They get fired up when we talk about the Gators, dude.
Man. Oh, I can't even take this seriously. You start laughing because I don't know if your boy is in here, and I'm sure he's a great guy. He detailed your vehicle. I don't know how much you paid him. I'm assuming it's double, knowing you, but. Florida last year, man, I can't do this with a straight face. I got so ripped up about this 3 months ago. Last year, 6-7, right? Back-to-back losing seasons for the Gators. It's unfortunate they were 3-5 in conference, Christian. They didn't do too bad on offense. We all know about AR-15, Anthony Richardson. He's on the Colts right now. I think the kid actually probably one of the most hyped up, probably destroyed the combine more than about anybody did in the last 15 to 20 years in the NFL. But they averaged 29.5 points per game, put him at 57th in the country. They gave up, though, and I'll get more into this, and Christian will dig super deep into the stats like he always does about Florida and about any team that he doesn't like. 28.8 points a game, guys, in the SEC. That's way too much. Pac-12, you can get away with that. Not in the SEC. That was 87th in the country out of 132 teams last year. Straight to schedule, though, was 7th. I'm not so sure that their schedule this year is not higher than that for the Gators. They lost to Oregon State in a dismal Las Vegas Bowl 30-3 last year. A lot of people didn't play, so I don't look too hard into that, Christian. Billy Napier on his second season. My opinion, Billy Napier's a great guy. I don't really know if he knows what the hell he's doing over there, especially he can recruit, but it's Florida. They always recruit. It's amazing to me that team can recruit like they do, but they can't even really catch a bowl game essentially and/or a winning season. Christian, I'm kicking it over to you now. I'm going to get super hyped here because there's a quarterback thing here that we have an issue on, and you're the Georgia man. So I'm going to go ahead, take it over.
Chris, you said it exactly right. They're coming off a 6-7 season last year under first-year coach Billy Napier, and fans have a lot of mixed reviews about that, right? Now, I actually like Billy Napier more than I liked Dan Mullen, right?
I agree.
I look at and a lot. We've said this before. I've said this before, and I've pissed off a lot of Florida fans by saying this. But I look at the whole Florida situation kind of like Auburn, last year before they fired Brian Harsin, right? Yes. A lot of people were like, can he come to this level and can he coach, right? I mean, Auburn is a program that wants to do two things. Number one, beat Bama. Number two, compete for championships, right? In that order. Florida's kind of the same way, right? They want to beat Georgia. And then number two, they want to compete for championships. That's the thing. So you go out and you get these coaches that, aren't necessarily in the Power Five to come in and run the program. I like Napier, but I just see this as one of those things where, hey, man, this is big-time football. You've got to come correct week in and week out. This is one of the toughest conferences in America, right? Some fans are saying that this is growing pains, right, for something much better. Some fans say losses to Vandy, Oregon State, and beating a USF team, which is a 1-11 team, by 3 points last year, all while having Anthony Richardson, a top 5 pick in the NFL, is a sign of something much worse to come, right? Because, Chris, and I touched on this a little bit before the start of the show. Some of my best friends are Florida fans, man. Love those guys to death, right? Give them the shirt off my back. Now, they'd probably be pissed because the shirt I'm wearing right now is a Vanderbilt shirt. So, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot of shit about Florida, but that's only because a portion of the fan base has let us know how they're going to win the national championship this year and how elite Graham Mertz is. Kind of like how Bama, Colorado, and Auburn fans all think they're going to win the Natty this year as well. Right? I mean...
Go on. Keep going.
I mean, to make it a further point, kind of like some UGA fans think we're going to walk... And I'll say this, right? I'm not a biased UGA fan. I'm not a Disney dog, as they like to say, right? Some UGA fans think we're going to walk through this year undefeated in the playoffs on our way to a three-peat, right? History's not on our side with that, by the way. And I tend to side with history a lot in this. I think we might have 1 or 2 losses this year. Again, we're going to go through some growing pains, right? We're starting a new quarterback. Who's that big guy up front for Georgia this year going to be? Because you don't have a Jordan. Yeah, you don't have a Jordan Davis, a Devontae Wyatt, a Jalen Carter back there. Hell, the guy I thought was Big Bear Alexander, he is now at USC. So, again, there's a lot of growing pains that could be had. I still think we're going to have a good season, but when we relate this back to Florida, Florida's a good team if we place them in the Big Ten West. If we put them in the Pac-12, in the Big Ten, Florida would be a good team, right? And they would probably compete for some of those divisions or, a chance to compete out there in the Pac-12. I would like them in some of those games. I mean, hell, they beat Utah early last year, and Utah beat USC twice. So my whole thing with this, Chris, and I'll kind of kick it back to you, is, dude, but they play in the SEC every week, dude. I mean, that is just a rough season for just okay teams, right?
Right. And this is where I want to take this over here. It's not, the Florida man that catches this on YouTube. I know you guys have been in denial for the last, since Team Tebow, Urban Meyer left. I get it. I know the feeling, but these statements I keep seeing from the Florida man, it's crazy. They think that they're back on top, that they've been relevant, and they haven't been relevant, man. You guys lost to fucking Vanderbilt last year. I mean, the same shit that he's wearing. I mean, it's amazing to me, man, that, like, I get this as a Nebraska fan. Like, I get it. But, like, Billy Napier, and I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I just don't. I think this, personally, this job is way too high octane over his head type of thing. I don't think he knows what he's doing. And I know we only got 1 year to judge that by. We had Anthony Richardson last year, if you're a Florida guy. And I've heard Florida fans say, thank God he's gone. That blows my mind. Well, the NFL didn't. And they seem to be right some of the time. And these scouts, and I'm not saying everybody, we could go down that long road. The kid's obviously athletic. He's obviously can throw a football. And we're talking about college. And it just blows my mind. Week 1, they got to go out and play Utah, Christian. Out to Utah. And I don't think they stand a chance in that game. I don't. And God, here I'm going to bring him up. And I know, Christian, we've gotten some heated debates between you and I about my man, your man, actually, Graham Mertz. I watched this kid play at Wisconsin. I think he's a used trash bag. That's just me. I don't think he's even on the Richter scale of Anthony Richardson. Not even close. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible. Kid's got some experience under his belt. But this whole Florida thing, their schedule is brutal again this year. They got a lot of tough games. It is the SEC. They got a ton of talent, but talent doesn't always mean that you're going to be good. Oh, wait. Texas A&M, how'd they do last year, Christian?
Jesus, dude. 5-7, son.
5-7 with the number 1 overall recruiting class ever in college football to most people. They didn't even make a bowl game. And Florida's kind of not, I'm not saying they're in that same boat, but man, this year we're going to break down the schedules here shortly, but I just don't see how Florida even stands a chance in the SEC this year. And it's not because of all Billy Napier. It's not the Florida Gators. They need a couple years here. I don't know how anybody debates it, even the Florida man. Like, I don't get it, because you guys are starting over essentially. You got a new quarterback in, second-year coach. Like, this isn't easy. This, especially in the SEC. You said it. I'm a Big Ten West guy because I have to live in here with Nebraska. Yeah, you drop them in here. Okay, all right. They're competing. But this is the SEC, Christian. We all know it's hands down by far the best freaking conference in the country. And it has been not just yesterday. It has been for years. And I'm talking decades. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Chris, you're not wrong. I mean, we touched on it. You got to come correct in this conference every single week. I mean, Mertz looked rough the last couple of years with Wisconsin, right? He was up and down with them. And even though the Badgers had a top 10 defense and a rushing attack, right, their passing game struggled. So, I mean, why is that going to be any different at Florida, right? He's going to have a worse defense from a statistical standpoint, right? He's going to be in a harder conference, all while having four brand new starting offensive linemen, by the way. Right? And I know Florida fans, like I said, I know a lot of Florida fans are going to jump in and say, well, listen, that offensive line can't be worse than what they were last year, right? Well, you can always find a way to hit new rock bottoms, right? Every time we say, hey, can it get worse? And maybe they're not, right? Maybe they're not going to be worse. But that still begs the question, right? If Mertz struggles, right? And he didn't look great in the spring game either. Now, I don't like to place a whole lot of, I put a lot of shit in the spring game. I do, Chris. But that's just because the last tape I've been able to see in a competitive thing. And you see a lot of Florida fans saying, look at the spring game. Look at how elite our defense was, right? To me, the biggest question mark of all this, Chris, hands down, is going to be the quarterback position, right? So, they've got some other guys in there, that they can kind of go to, if I'm not mistaken here. If he struggles, then it's going to be Jack Miller, right? And if Jack Miller can't do it, then they're going to turn it over to Max Brown. So it's going to be interesting to me to see kind of what direction that they go. It's assumed Mertz is going to be the starter, but, we'll see, right? to me, Chris, the best part of the offense is going to be the running backs. They're going to be led by Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, right? Who combined for 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns last year. I think he's one Travis Etienne.
Pretty good in the NFL, too, for the Jags.
I've heard some stuff. Right? Listen, Chris, to me, this is where things get really interesting. Even if Graham Mertz plays lights out, right, and he does what you need him to do, and he plays like at an Anthony Richardson level of play, right, what you would expect an Anthony Richardson talent to play like, right? The receivers are going to be led by Ricky Pearsall, who had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns last year, Chris. Here's a stat for you. Other than that, they don't have a single wide receiver on that roster that put up more than 200 yards last year.
It's not good.
So that's what I'm really, really curious about, man, is, who's going to step up and be that guy for him? Now, I know people are going to chime in and say, well, you don't know about this 5-star or 4-star guy. Okay, listen. How often do these guys come in as a freshman and light up the SEC? Like what Quinshon Judkins did last year at Ole Miss, what some of these guys do, fantastic, right? That's once-in-a-generational guys, right? But my biggest question is, who's going to step up outside of Pearsall and be that guy for him?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question, though. Like, we hear, it's funny. Like, I know so much about Graham Mertz just watching for 2 years in Wisconsin, but it's like we all hear about, oh, he's going to Florida. He's going to, this is where he's supposed to be. This is the, type of offense he's supposed to be in. They're going to throw the ball. It's not the pound and ground and all that crap. I guess I don't see it. It's not like he has Texas' wide receiver core, or Ohio State's wide receiver core, or Florida State, or any USC, any of these schools' wide receiver core. They ain't got nobody left. I mean, Anthony Richardson, now, I'm not saying he played great in college, but we all know he was super athletic. Kid could throw the ball a mile. Graham Mertz is lucky if he's half of what Anthony Richardson's talent, as far as talent, quarterback level is. How the hell does anybody think these guys are going to do anything more than 5 or 6 wins this year? This just blows my mind, Christian. I know we're going to dig deep into this. Actually, Florida's best game is their running game. It really is. I truly believe that, Christian. If they pound the ball this year, probably run some Big Ten style of offense, it'd be better off. I truly believe that. But it's going to fall on Graham Mertz when they get down early, and he's going to have to complete some passes. I watched this guy so much, dude, at Wisconsin. Yes, Wisconsin is not a high, prolific, score, 37 points a game offense. But goddamn, they had Braylon Allen, man. They couldn't win with him. I mean, Graham Mertz is the guy that got their head coach fired, dude. Let's be honest. It was right after Scott Frost. I remember it was a week later. It's
Hey, we don't say that name around here.
Yeah, that's right. I got ripped up last week for saying Scott Frost. I apologize. Jesus Christ, though. I mean, Paul Chris. I mean, that's my thing. It's like, if anybody thinks that Graham Mertz is legit, dude, sorry, Florida fans. Sorry, your boy over there, Christian. I know he's a Florida man. But, man, he can't be super, super high. I'd like to hear his thoughts actually on what he thinks Florida's going to go this season, because their schedule is brutal. Like, it is brutal. It was brutal last year. I think it's worse this year.
I agree with you. Will, super cool guy, man. I mean, listen, if you're ever in the Nashville area and you need somebody to detail your cars, make sure you go see Beyond Detailing, man. They do phenomenal work. Chris gave me a lot of shit, for getting my car detailed. I like to support small business, and that just tells me what kind of guy I am, so you're welcome.
Is it because you're not a small guy? Or...
Hey, man, listen, people said the other last week's show, I don't see, no offense, Christian, I don't see you playing quarterback. Hey, that's okay. I like to model my game after one Jared Lorenzen to kind of give some people a name there. Anyways, let's get back on track here, Chris. Yeah. Look, the defense, which the fan base has been quick to point out, is going to be elite this year, man. It's going to be elite, dude. Right, which is good because they ranked 97th last year in total defense. All right, and they also gave up 30-plus points 6 times last year. So if you're a Florida fan, you're going to need that defense to be better. Now, Florida's resting their hopes primarily on 29-year-old defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong, who was Southern Miss's defensive coordinator for 2 years, right? He actually got him ranked up to number 59 in total defense. So he's got a shot, dude. He has got a shot to do something there. A lot of people are high on him, right? They stole him away from Nick Saban, right? He was one of the most sought-after assistants in all of college football, right? And I think he's going to be a great defensive coordinator, right? But he's going to need some time, right? They're going to have to adjust to new transfers and highly touted freshmen coming in and getting used to this level of football, Chris. They have some good pieces coming back on that defense, but it's going to be interesting to see how they all gel together this first year. I mean, honestly, it's going to be really interesting to see, right? They're going to be led up front by Memphis transfer nose tackle Cam Jackson. He had 1 sack last year and 22 tackles in the AAC. What is that, the American Athletic Conference? Yep. So, for me, that's the guy. I mean, he's a big guy, though. I mean, he's like 350 pounds, right? So his job's going to be to gobble up some double teams and help create opportunities for Jack linebacker Princely. Oh, Lord, I'm going to try to say this name without fucking it up. Princely Uman Malin. Hopefully I said that right. I'm sorry for the disrespect here. Make some sacks this year. I'll know how to pronounce it, all right, buddy? He had 4.5 sacks last year. Okay, 4.5 sacks. Linebacker is going to be led by Shamar James, who had 47 tackles and 2 sacks last year. Secondary, actually, Chris, to me, one of the best parts of this defense, right? Both on the back end and at both corners. And they've got some depth there, too, so I'm not as worried about them, right? The key on defense is getting all that talent to produce at an elite level, which the fans want and they're clamoring for. Getting everything to gel, because if they struggle, Chris, it's not going to matter. If they struggle up front, that secondary can be picked apart. Anybody's secondary can be picked apart if you struggle to get pressure on the quarterback, if you struggle to stop teams from getting 4 or 5 yards on you every time they run the football.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%, Christian. I don't mean to cut you off. No, you said it perfectly, though. I mean, if this comes to one of these things where you can't get pressure on a quarterback, I know teams in my own backyard that didn't do it last year. I mean, it don't matter how good your secondary is athletically. It doesn't matter. I played college football for a very incredibly short stint. Like it's very evident. If you can't cover, if you can't put pressure on the quarterback, dude, it don't matter how good they are. We saw this at Nebraska. We've seen this at several teams in the Big Ten. It don't matter how good your scheme is. It doesn't matter how good, your linebackers are, Christian. You know this. SEC is a different animal. I mean, SEC is known for defensive linemen, edge rushers. We all know this, the guys in the NFL. Like, and that's a problem here with Florida. It's like, if they're not going to put pressure on a quarterback, dude, it's all day, all freaking day back there. And I hate this. And I'm not trying to piss off the Florida man, but it's like they just don't have it. It's not enough this year. I know it's Billy Napier's second year. I don't think he's a great coach. It's not because I don't think he's a good guy. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think it's a little bit, over his head. I think the recruiting's great down there. Obviously, Florida recruits well. We know the state of Florida, Georgia. We know all that. But ultimately, this is kind of funny to me because, like, the SEC to me has always been like, if you could play defense, you could stick in games. I don't think the SEC offenses are always over the top. Look at Tennessee. Their offenses with Josh Heupel are just insane. But they really can't play defense. And that's why they got beat by South Carolina last year. Because they couldn't stop Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler had one of those, just went nuclear games. Like if Florida could play really great defense and every fan is telling me, oh, that spring game, like it's a defense. Unfortunately, man, I know more about Graham Mertz than they do. And it's like Graham Mertz is not going to – he's not that guy. He's not that type of guy to put up 40 points, 35, 30 a game. I truly don't think that. And I know coaching has something to do with that and play scheme, and I understand that. But they don't have a wide receiver. They really don't. And they don't have the dogs. And I hate to use the word dogs when I talk about Georgia, you, Christian, but they don't have the dogs on the back end on the defense to even do that. And that's where I think Florida's just F this year. They're like seriously screwed. And I can't believe I'm sitting here, Christian, like making a case for the Florida man. But we'll break down the schedule here shortly. But it's not because I know I talk a lot of shit about him, but I'm being serious. It's like, it's just not going to happen this year, Christian. It's just not. They just don't have, like you said, on the defense side of the ball. Unless they got 2 guys that they put in there this year that are unheard of, and guys that are under the radar and somehow generate a shit ton of pass rush to make it tough for those SEC quarterbacks, especially there's a lot of good ones. Jalen Daniels, God damn, I could the list.
Spencer Rattler,
who's the kid at
Arkansas?
Jefferson.
KJ Jefferson. You got Will Rogers. You've got what's that kid? You got the kid at Kentucky, Devin Leary.
Yeah, they got I mean, from NC State, like there's a lot of like proven quarterbacks that played. I mean, I hate to say this, we're talking about guys like Tyler Buckner, Jalen Milroe. I can't believe I'm mentioning those names because I can't stand Bama, and I don't think they have a single quarterback in that room. But one of those three guys are going to start. Simpson. They got guys that played a little bit. Like that to me is just like it's so hard for Florida this year to even make a bowl game, man. Like I just don't see it. And Christian, I know I'm jumping ahead of myself right now. I'm going to kick it over to you, but I just don't see it this year. I don't.
Man, Chris, I think we've teased this enough. Let's kind of get into some of the main course here. The Florida record predictions, Chris, I'll kind of go first here with it, and I'll get out in front of it. Dude, you touched on it earlier here. Let me pull their schedule up. Dude, this is a brutal, brutal schedule. I mean, probably one of the tougher ones we've seen. I mean, Chris, they're going to play 6 potential top 25 teams this year, right? Potential. I mean, they could play more than that, just depending on the given week, right? And they have to go on the road to Kentucky, Mizzou, and South Carolina, which are their easier games, right? The quote-unquote easier games for them. I think, Florida fans are going to hate this, but my prediction is either I'm going to go 4-8. I'm going to go 4-8 with Florida, right, with wins against McNeese State, Charlotte. I could see Vandy and maybe South Carolina, Mizzou, somewhere in there, right? It just depends. I mean, South Carolina last year, they were a very streaky team. To me, it's very hard, though, to see Florida kind of winning outside of those. I mean, they lost to Vandy last year. I'm not trying to keep harping on that. So it can be very interesting for them, right? Chris, I think the reasons we're not as high on them is the number of question marks at key positions and coaches that have yet to be proven yet. Right? I mean, to me, Florida, they just have way too many unknowns on both sides of the ball this year down in Gainesville. But, comment down below and let us know why, either me and Chris, I don't know what he's going to predict yet, are either right or wrong. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to you, Chris.
Hey, Gators man in the chat. Hey, who's your 8 wins against? Actually, better yet, who the hell is your 4 losses? Come on. I got to see this before I start. This one just you kicked it over to me, Christian, at the perfect time. I want to know. So he's not a real effing fan. Who's your 4 losses to? All right, nothing. All right.
We got to give him some time here. He says, let's see here. He says, Georgia is scared to play a real schedule. I do agree with him. He says, I have Georgia 9-3. Hey, man, I could see it. I've said that. They're going to play some teams this year. It's going to be interesting, right? So I don't disagree with that, right? I'm realistic about it.
All right. I'm going to let these guys hash it out in the chat. I'm going to go through my predictions real quick here, not to waste time, Christian, or waste these guys in the chat's time, or definitely the Florida man right now. And I love it. I'm glad to see you in the chat, Florida man. I love you type of people. You guys are great. Here's my thing with Florida. If you guys didn't hear me out, it's not, even though I don't like the Florida man, Florida schedule is, like Christian said, it's ridiculous. You could throw Alabama in this schedule. You could throw even Georgia in this schedule. You could throw LSU in this schedule. This would be tough, especially for the Ohio States, Michigans, Penn States of the world. This is kind of the first time, Christian, we've had to do a breakdown. Instead of doing teams that these teams that we're talking about lose to, I did their only wins, and it's a very short list. I'll have wins over for Florida for McNeese State, Charlotte, Vanderbilt, Missouri, or Kentucky. I think it's that bad. I think Florida goes 4-8 this year. I'm going to piss off a ton of Florida fans, but that's okay. Bring it on. I am the co-host here at the I-80 Boys, Chris Vaca. I'm fine with it. Let me know how stupid I am, or at the end of the year when I prove you guys wrong, and you guys are sitting like 3-9. The big thing is you got Utah off the rip. I don't see it happen. It's at Utah, first game of the season. You guys did beat Utah. You're going to tell me Anthony Richardson played great last year. Unfortunately, Graham Mertz doesn't hold the candle to Anthony Richardson as a quarterback. He may have better stats, but I'm talking about QB play overall. And you're at Utah. It's probably Billy Napier's biggest win was Utah last year. The McNeese State, fine. I'll give you the W. Tennessee, hell no. Charlotte, I'll give you a dub. Kentucky, at Kentucky. I talk about Kentucky. Christian thinks I'm crazy. I think Kentucky's a physical team. I think they're one of those old school. It's not pretty. I think they're going to be okay. I actually think Kentucky's a damn good team this year. I actually think Kentucky goes 6 or 7 wins. Beating Florida is one of them. Vanderbilt, you guys aren't going to lose them this year. Congratulations, Florida, man. You're going to beat Vandy this year. Christian's got the Vandy gear on, but I'm going to X-day you out of that one. Moving on to South Carolina, at South Carolina, hell no. South Carolina is a much better team this year than you guys are. They got more talent returning. They got a quarterback that's been around for a while in several different teams. Not going to happen. I'm not even bringing up the next game. We all know how that ends, even though that's what do you guys call that? The cocktail party down there in Georgia?
Oh, yeah. World's largest.
Okay. Arkansas. I like Arkansas. A lot of people sleeping on Jefferson. And that offense, their defense needs to be better. But Arkansas is one of those crazy teams this year that I think super slept on. That's to me personally. Oh, wait. Then you got to turn around and go to LSU. Holy shit. That 4-game stretch there, boys, in Florida, not a goddamn chance. I'm sorry. You guys don't even put half the talent on the field as most of these teams do. At Missouri. Missouri's one of those teams. God, I've been hearing right and left. Got you all sleeping on Missouri. Everybody's sleeping on Missouri. It's at Mizzou. I think they either win that game or lose that game or the Kentucky game. That's where they're going to win one of those two. Florida State, hell no. I'm high on Florida State. Not going to freaking happen this year. Florida don't, again, put half the talent on the field that Florida State does. Florida State returns more starters than almost every team in the country this year. Christian, I'm going to kick it over here. I got the Florida man ripping it up in the chat. I love it. What do you got, Christian? What do you think about a 4-8 season for Florida this year from me?
Man, I think we listen, we kind of pegged this, I think, right on. We were both kind of agreeing with it, in the chat here. Let's do this. There we go. In the chat here, the wins that they're predicting is for Florida, Utah, Tennessee, Kentucky, Vandy, South Carolina, Arkansas, Missouri. Okay. So 8 wins there, but he's got losses to LSU, Georgia, and Florida State. I mean, could it happen? Anything's possible. I'm not going to sit here and say, it couldn't happen, but I mean, Florida would just have to play at an elite level. I mean, what you're basically banking on with this is that Graham Mertz plays at a better level than Anthony Richardson did last year, right?
It would have to be more than that, Christian. To beat Utah at Utah, to beat Tennessee, who you are ultra high on, has to outplay Joe Milton. Get the F out of here, bro. No, it's not happening. And South Carolina? At South Carolina? There's no way. And Arkansas? I mean, I love the Gators. You're obviously a diehard with the logo. I get it. Holy shit. How much money do you have? Like, do we need to have an off-air bet here? Like, I would love to take this up, man. I sound like a Florida hater. I'm not, but no freaking way, man. No way.
I don't know. When was the last time Tennessee beat Florida at Florida? That's the real question you have to ask yourself there. No, I mean, I'm reading his question, Chris. I'm not saying that. I mean, here's the other thing. I mean, when's the last time, Tennessee had an explosive offense like they've had, right? And gone down to Gainesville. That's the better question.
When's the last time Tennessee had 10 wins? It was 1998. I mean, Tennessee hasn't been any good either, except for last year. Throw that outlier year out. That was why I was talking. It was like, the hell are you talking about? Dude, Tennessee hasn't been good either. They had a great year last year. Throw that outlier season out the window. Tennessee and Florida are in the same boat, essentially. So if that's what you're basing that off of, Gators 15, like, I'm assuming the 15's for Tim Tebow, which they gave to Graham Mertz. You think Graham Mertz is now the new Tim Tebow? I don't know.
Is this Graham Mertz? Is he in the chat trying to troll us?
Graham, I'll watch you play if it is, man. I'll watch you play a lot at Wisconsin, bro.
Hey, man, listen, all I'm going to say is, and this is going to fire some people up, but, man, Wisconsin might be really missing Graham Mertz at the end of this year. with old Tanner Mordecai over there.
Oh my God! Don't even.
He says Gators man says 2016 was a good year for Tennessee. Beat Florida and Georgia.
Man.
Damn straight it was for them, right?
Good year. How many wins do you have though?
He's talking about Tennessee. I think that was that year of that Hail Mary bullshit thing they did with old Josh Dobbs that year. Yeah,
but Josh, that was the last time Nebraska played that Tennessee team in a bowl game and got beat. That was the last bowl game, by the way, we were in. I remember that year, and that's great. But at the end of the day, Tennessee and Florida are kind of in the same boat, except for last year. You know what I mean? Tennessee had the crazy good year. They beat Bama, the Hendon Hooker year. I get that. But I don't know why he's sitting here like Florida
Hey, you know what, Chris? I will say this though, right? I'm not trying to stick up for the Florida man, but I'm going to say this: he's at least being halfway reasonable compared to some of the other stuff. Mr. Gators 15. I just want you to know there's some of your counterparts have jumped on here and have told us about how Florida's going to win the Natty this year, how Graham Mertz is going to be a Heisman winner, and talked about that, right? I think if anything we do on this show, we try not to be biased. We try to say, hey, give realistic expectations for our teams and just kind of look at it from an outside perspective, right? A lot of question marks. I'm not saying if Billy Napier survives this year, which, by the way, I think if he has a 4 or 5 win season, I don't know if he survives the year, right? I don't. Even though he's recruiting a top 5 or top 10 class right now, I still don't think that's going to be enough for him to keep his job if they only win 4 or 5 games, especially not if they lose to Vandy again.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The only thing is I don't think I don't know how Florida, I don't care who their coach would be this year. Florida's schedule is too hard. You know what I mean? He's a second-year coach. I don't think Billy Napier's a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad I think it's just too much too soon for him personally, just as a coach. Florida's going to always be able to recruit. They've always been a great recruiting school. They got too much talent down there. But it's just like Anthony Richardson. There's a guy that was ultra talented, but they couldn't figure out the right way to use him. I'm not saying it was, all the coaching staff's fault. Anthony Richardson looked like shit most games. Also, though, Christian, who the F did he throw to, though? He didn't have anybody catching a ball either. And when he did go throw a good ball, the receiver couldn't catch the ball. Now I'm talking about Alabama last year leading the whole country in drop passes. So, I mean, that was Bryce Young throwing the ball. So, that guy's pinpoint accuracy. So, that's my point, man. I'm not trying to harp on Florida, even though I want to, just because of and I'll give the Gators fans some credit here. He isn't being crazy with his takes, but I just don't see how Florida even gets to a bowl game. You guys gonna have a 1, 2, 3 losing seasons in a row. To Florida, man. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, be sure, again, all the Florida people and some of the new people we've got in the chat, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Comment once you've done that you've subscribed underneath this video. Again, we're giving away a PS5, a Xbox Series X, some mini helmets, right? Your choice. So if you win, we will give away a Florida hat, a Florida mini helmet and a custom jersey, right? We're doing that once we hit 1,000 subscribers, right? So we need all the help we can get. We need all of your help. Georgia, Florida, whoever in the hell you root for, working together, right? And that's what we love to see, man, because we're trying to grow the channel. We're trying to grow the brand here. And we just love talking college football, right? If you guys like this show, you're going to love the one we do on Friday. This is actually a good one, right? Because, I mean, the Falcons play the Dolphins on Friday. It's a preseason game. What we love to do with this show, Chris, and I'll kick it back over to you here in just a second, is we're going to be covering games this year. So we're going to be calling some games, really getting the chat hyped up, and really trying to take this to the next level here, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%, guys. And like I said, dude, you guys just wait, man. We've been sitting around this off season, last couple of months. We started the channel back in the end of May. We've been fucking around. I'll put it that way. Apologize, take the kids out of the room for the F-bomb. But me and Chris have been around. We're going to be some big things happening here, guys. I appreciate everybody in the chat, even the Gators man, as I like to call the Florida man. We're going to be here, man. I appreciate the support. I appreciate everything in the chat. We try to pick up on everything you guys are dropping down there. Like I said, big things coming though, dude. It's not about the giveaways, necessarily. You guys are going to win some big things, but it's all about we're growing here, man. We're going to do some big things. We're doing an NFL game preseason that might not appeal to everybody on Friday. I suggest you guys join us though, because we're going to talk about anything in the chat. We've done a couple of these before. We get a lot of people in here. We like to talk. We like to talk anything. Doing it, NFL guys. Football's around the corner. That's all I think me and Christian care about. Football. It's right there. Whether it's NFL, whether it's college football. We talk a lot of college football on this channel, obviously, but we're right there, guys. I appreciate the support. I appreciate every single one of you guys. We've talked to you guys all the time. We try to answer any questions you guys have. Like I said, even the Gators, man, right now. I appreciate you dropping in, clicking on the StreamYard link and seeing a bunch of idiots out here. Me, especially the Nebraska man, sitting here talking shit. We got some guy that's apparently a Georgia fan next to me wearing Vanderbilt gear. I don't know what the hell that's all about. I'll kick it back over to him now, though.
Listen, man, I feel bad because the last game I went to, I went to the Tennessee-Georgia game, the year they won the Natty. Oh, which year, you might say? The first year they won it. And then I went to the Vandy, Georgia game, when they played at Vanderbilt because we lived in Nashville. And, man, they beat Vanderbilt like a redheaded stepchild. I think it was like 62-7 or something like that. I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, it was, it was really tough here. But, I want to jump into another comment I saw from a while back here. This Huskers in Hanover. He has a really good question. What should happen with NIL and the transfer portal? Chris, what do you think, man?
NCAA needs to jump in. By the way, if you don't know Huskers, I mean, you had a little discussion last week. Respect your opinion. No hate here. It's all love over here on the I-80 boys. The NCAA is going to jump in here. I've read a lot on this. Actually, this is a really interesting question. They have to put a cap on this. This can't be NFL free agency, which it has been for the last couple of years. It's ridiculous. We got kids that have never thrown a college pass making, like I said last week, more money than half the NFL starters. This is a problem. I'm sorry. You guys. I'm assuming you guys all work for a living like me and Christian do. That'd be like some intern that's in high school, that's a sophomore, making more than you at your job that you've been, doing for 10 years, at a high level. So like NIL is going to get capped. I think the transfer portal, I don't know about that part of it. I think there should be a cap on how many times you guys how many times a kid transfers. JT Daniels is a perfect point. He's on his fourth team, Christian. I mean, I know you don't want to talk about him, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's getting ridiculous. Like, he's at Rice now. This kid was like, number 2, 3 overall?
Yeah, he was like the number 2 quarterback, and he was like number 6 in his class, if I remember right.
Yeah, I mean, he's uber talented. I'm not, but everybody's uber talented at that level. But he's proven over and over at different schools that it's not just one time. I'm a big thing, and like, you maybe the coaches and team were wrong the first time they passed on you, like Justin Fields, right? But the second time around, just like Joe Burrow, he wanted to play at Ohio State. They said F you, and he said, well, fuck it, I'm going to LSU, and then he ends up being the, to me, the second greatest quarterback I've ever seen play college football. So for 1 year at least, I mean, he played 2 years there. But I mean, my point is like, this whole transfer portal thing's got to stop at some point too. So I think the NCAA, who I hate, and I think it's just a complete joke, I do know they're stepping in about the NIL thing, Christian. I don't know about the transfer portal, but I'm assuming that's coming later. Christian, if you got anything to add to this, I'm actually intrigued because this is probably the best question I've gotten all night on the air here.
I mean, this is really awesome. And again, be sure to, he kind of responded here, and I really like it. Let us know in the comment section what you think should happen as far as NIL and the transfer portal. My thing with this is, Chris, the NCAA, they kind of let the toothpaste out of the package, right? And it's hard to get it back in once it's out.
100%.
A lot of that was Congress came down and said, hey, you got to pay these guys. You can't just not pay them, right? So when that happened, the NCAA, which was one of the most strict governing bodies in all of sports at any level, just pretty much threw their hands up and said, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, do what you want to do, right? They pretty much just dissolved right then and there. The whole transfer portal started getting wild. I mean, that kind of was before the whole NIL stuff. I mean, kids were jumping in and doing what they were going to do. And, like they're saying, they're letting these kids transfer, out willy-nilly. I think you should have a one-time, no penalty transfer, right? But you can only do it. There's a 2-week window that you should be able to do it immediately following spring practice.
Okay, can I jump in here because I'm going to use the bathroom again and grab another beer? Apologize, guys, we're on air here, but Christian, I have a question to you, and I can hear you through the headset.
Yeah.
Is what happens if a kid gets injured? I want to know your thoughts on that. You said one time. What happens if a kid has one of those horrific, ACL injuries or something like that. He's one of the guys, trying to be a starter. And then let's say that a coach change happens, right? There's another option that I'm throwing out there. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
If Brian Kelly's notorious for fucking leaving schools and leaving them hanging, right? He did it at Cincinnati. He did it at Notre Dame, not playing a bowl game. He had all those recruits in, and all of a sudden he's jumping to LSU, vice versa type of thing. Like how is that? And what do you think? I'll be back in 2 seconds, but I just want to know your thoughts on that, and what happens? How's the NCAA, I guess, address that issue?
Well, I think it really just depends, right? I mean, so if someone gets hurt, you got to look at every situation differently. I mean, so if somebody gets hurt, but they've already transferred schools, you just give them an extra year of eligibility, kind of the same way they've done it in the past, right? I think that's the way that you kind of continue to roll this. As far as, if they've already transferred, you don't let them transfer again just because they've got hurt, right? I mean, it's kind of like if I leave my job to go to another company for more money, right? And I get to that company and I was kind of misled as far as the pay is concerned, do I jump companies again and then risk having that on my resume as being a guy that just couldn't stay at one school? Because, I mean, that's the thing ultimately, right? If you're a good enough talent, you'll find a way to make it to the NFL. But if you think for a second that these NFL scouts, that is questions they're asking, right? Why did you jump schools 3 times? If you were really the best player at, USC, at Colorado, at, the Colorado thing is a little different, but at Georgia, some of these, Alabama, some of these high-end schools, why are you changing teams and jumping to 4 or 5 different schools, right? It doesn't make sense. I get things happen. I mean, in this era of football, to me, it seems kind of like the NIL might have something to do with it, because you got a lot of guys that are jumping in the portal every year to go chase the bag over here, right? So a guy will commit to, Texas, and he'll get, I mean, we saw it with Quinn Ewers. I mean, I can't 100% rule that out. He committed to Ohio State, right? Yeah. Got some money from that. Didn't really play at all as a true freshman. Sat out a year, jumped back to Texas, and now he's driving a Lamborghini SUV.
Yeah, he reclassed,
what I mean?
Too. He reclassed, if I'm not mistaken, like out of high school. So, no, you're exactly right, Christian. I don't want to dig too deep in this, but this is a great question. I don't know what happens, but I agree with something has to happen. The NCAA is a joke, in my opinion. I don't have much good to say about them. They've pretty much let shit go, and then when they do want to come down, they're way too hard, or they look like a bunch of idiots in the public eye because they don't seem to care, I guess. And it's not just football; it's all sports, right? They all fall under this shit. So weird deal. College football. We're not going to talk about realignment. We did that last week, but I'll kick it back over to you, Christian, here for the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, as far as that's concerned, we had somebody saying Bama was going to win a national championship here. Where did I see that at?
Whoa. Get me fired up tonight before I go to bed. What do we got?
Bama for the Natty, Roll Tide. This is Nighthawk. Listen, old Nighthawk, dude. Listen, where's Dragon at? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't you need to go find Dragon? Did he play your drum set? Did he play your drum set, Gump? Is that what he did? He marked his territory.
Yeah, listen, dude. I've seen this. It's kind of funny. I don't comment ever in this chat, Christian. I know you rarely do with the channel, but
yeah.
This guy, I've seen around a while. I don't know if he's trolling us. I don't know if he's homeless or living in a trailer. I'm not sure. But he had that whole one that I love forever is chicken fried Roll Tide. I had to laugh, even though I can't stand Bama, but I don't know who this dude is. But dude, get the hell out of here. We'll send me your email. We'll send you some clips of the practice today and tell me what you think.
Yeah, dude. Listen, they absolutely no. Go watch the practice clips. Like we said, they can't even complete a pass in practice, and I don't think it's that the defense is going to be elite. I mean, hell, you lost half of a fucking all SEC defense last year to the draft. And I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to be good, but I mean, hey, Kevin Still at Miami last year had the 60-something best defense in the country, right? And that was in the ACC. Now, I know he's been at Bama before, but you can't just keep changing coordinators and hoping everything's going to be all right. You know what I mean? On both sides of the ball. I mean, we talk about, Florida and everything like that, and they have a lot of question marks. Bama has a shit ton of question marks, right? Now, the difference between, Florida and Bama is Nick Saban's been there for, almost 15 years now, right? So he's got a little more credibility there. Now, I'm still not saying Nick Saban and them are going to win the national title this year. I still think they're going to lose probably 3 or 4 games this year. But to me, that's kind of the way I look at it. I just don't see it, Nighthawk. We appreciate the support. Hit sub and come get a PS5 for all your troubles, because that's about what you'll be winning.
That's worth definitely more than with the trailer park that he's living in, and probably whatever vehicle he's driving, if he's driving one. So I'll leave it at that. I gotta hate on this Nighthawk guy. I see him all the time.
Oh my god!
Drop some Bama man. I love it.
Chris, I'm going to turn this one to you here. I don't know about this, right? So Nebraska, obviously, they gave out single-digit numbers being handed out. I think someone said Jeff Sims, number 7. What does that mean for your program? Obviously, I'm not familiar with that.
Corn here might know more than I do about this. I'm not mad about it. I mean, I know the whole player number thing has changed a lot probably last 10 years, especially in NFL too. People wearing number 0 now. They allowed it a couple of years ago. If Sims wants 1 or 7, I don't care. If he feels like he's going to get me 7 points every time he touches the ball, I'm cool with it. I don't care. I think he wore 14, if I'm not mistaken, at GT. But I'm fine with that. I guess, Corn, feel free to drop in the comment section here what you're thinking, man. I'm fine with whatever numbers you want to wear. I don't like the linemen wearing, especially the front, 4, 5, whatever you got there for a defensive grouping. But I'm not sure what he means there. Christian, do you understand this one?
Yeah, I just looked it up. So again, I'm just going to read the article. Nebraska starting a new tradition under head coach Matt Rule, with the Huskers unveiling some new jersey numbers Wednesday evening. The numbers unveiled were the first 4 players to receive single digits for the season ahead. Early in his tenure, Rule explained there's tradition of players earning single-digit jersey numbers that he has implemented throughout his career. I got really tired of having a guy in my program who had spent 3 years as number 47 and then was getting ready to play and wanted to wear number 1 or number 3, and he had earned it. And we would give it to a recruit, said Rule in the spring. So what we decided was, 1 through 9 and now 0 through 9 would go to the 9 or now 10 toughest guys on the team.
That's cool though. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I kind of like that though. Yeah. I didn't know that. I mean, Corn brought up a good point. I did not know that. And I love it, man. I don't care if it makes their team better, more confidence. Well, I don't care what number you wear. I wear 11. That's my number. Have it tattooed on the back of my arm even. So if you're big in that, some guys are, that's awesome. So I'm not knocking that, man. Jeff Sims, if he wants to change his number, I think he'll, if you give me 7 every week, man, I'm good with that every time he touches the ball. I love it.
Man, that would be something different, man, for sure. Children of the Corn says he wears 23. Obviously, probably a big Jordan fan over there. No issues with that, right?
Yeah, 23 is the biggest number ever, by far. Any athlete ever.
100%. 100%, dude. You said you were number 11, Chris?
Yep. That's my number.
I always wore number 22 in honor of my hero, Jared Lorenzen.
Jared Lorenzen, the 362-pound quarterback. 6'5". Could sling the ball literally half a mile. Half a mile, by the way. Hey, did you hear, by the way, that Joe Milton threw a ball in practice 90 yards?
I can see it, dude. That guy has a strong. He has a hose.
Is that real though? Is that real? But I could throw a ball 70, and that's at this stage. No, stop, shut the hell up.
No, you're not letting me finish. Because what I was going to say, you're getting all flustered over there. All right, I feel bad for whoever you're with, Chris. They just never get to finish. That's the damn problem that I'm sensing from this.
I feel bad for your wife, who's my cousin. I hear about you all the time.
God, man, listen. What I'm trying to say here, Chris, is this, right? Damn it, now I can't even think what I was trying to say. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Look, when it comes to Joe Milton, I've seen, and we're going to get to a caller here in just a second.
He's not talented.
No, I'm not saying he's not talented either. I've seen a video of him. I think it was at the Manning Passing Academy. The guy threw it without just the flick of his wrist, 70 yards, dude.
Yeah, so does fucking Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. You're trying to tell me he's got a stronger arm than than those guys?
No. Well, they're damn near the same age. He's like 26, 27 years old.
Yeah, I mean, but MFer's older than Stetson Bennett. People made fun of him. Watch Joe Minton on Tennessee this year.
Well, Stetson Bennett could barely see over the line, dude. Come on now.
Stetson Bennett couldn't graduate. That's his problem, but he'll end up being the starting quarterback with the Rams this year. Watch that. You disagreeing with that statement?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. We got a caller again in here. We got Children of the Corn coming back for seconds.
All right. I got like 10 minutes here, and I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
What we got?
All right. Sorry to impose on your wife orders. You got 10 minutes.
You ain't got to worry about that.
Crypto told me to call back in. I just love listening to you guys. And what was your last take again, right before this?
Was it the Florida one? Or the NIL transfer?
The transfer, I think if you get injured, now you can tell me this. If you get injured, should you have to wait 1 year or should you have to wait until you're 100% until that time starts, I guess?
Well, I think 100% is relative, right? Because I mean, coaches will figure out a way, and players will figure out a way to get around that, right? So a guy might get injured, he might tear his ACL, right? And then he might say 3 weeks later, he might say, "Well, I want to transfer out," right? I'm 100% with the going to a program with the understanding that hey, he damn well is not 100%. But you know what I mean? They're going to figure out a way to skirt rules around it. So I think that, maybe a year. Like he has to wait a year to transfer. That wouldn't be a bad take on it, right?
Before he can play again.
Yeah.
1 year before he can play.
Yeah.
What if it takes 2 years to heal from the knee injury? So should he be penalized for that 1 year because he's injured? And I'm only asking because that's kind of an interesting take.
I don't think he should be penalized for it, no. I mean, if it's, like you said, if it takes him 2 years, I mean, I think he would still get that eligibility, right? They may take him off. They may take him off like the active scholarship roster. I mean, they do some weird shit, weird roster manipulation. And, they might put him back on. I'm not 100% sure about that. I just think
you guys know more about that than I do. That's why I'm curious.
No, it's a good time. I mean, that's one of those like 1 in 100 deals, though. You know what I mean? Like to be injured that long with a severe injury, and it does happen. I think the injury overall though thing, like say it's week 2 and you tear your ACL or whatever, whether it's at practice or whether it's, in a game, I think you should be allowed to be like, hey, because you guys don't understand like how a coach might leave. Christian, you can answer this question better than anybody. Yeah. How quickly does a coach, like if it doesn't work within a couple years, Nebraska fans know this. You got it used to be a 4 or 5, 6 year window, 8 years way back in the day. Now,
anymore.
What do you got? 2, 3 years? Like
2 or 3 years. I mean, again, like if you're struggling to have winning seasons or you're not competing, especially against your rivals, like up to par with them, I mean, you might be lucky to get 2 years, a year and a half.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so if you're that kid that gets hurt and it happens to be that year, holy shit! Like, you can't penalize the kid for that. I think. Warren, you're not wrong. I mean, there's those injuries that you get some severe effed up injury with your leg. I mean, that's such a, I don't even know how to answer that. That one's, I don't know how that has to be like one of those like things they ultimately decide in a room full of people that are way smarter than me or Christian and be like, hey, we'll give this kid, it's one of those outlier type of things.
And the sad thing is I heard the federal government is getting involved with these college NIL deals. Like, if we didn't need anything else, you guys got to get your fingers in every single little deal you can.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, just trying to, that's the big thing. The NCAA, government, everybody wants to get money somewhere, somehow, right? Another thing too is, Mike says this, what if you have a situation like at Northwestern? So you get a bunch of scandals or things going on like that. I guess the question is, though, again, and this is what makes all of this so tough, is how do you really rein that in, right? Like, if it directly affects you and you can prove it, then, if there was something that happened, right, and you can prove it, then yes. But listen, I'll give you a good example of this. This is going to probably be a little different, example here. It's kind of like trying to get a medical marijuana, license, or a prescription for medical marijuana, right? I mean, if you go to California and you just say, yeah, I don't feel good, they'll write you a prescription, right? I mean, it's kind of like the same thing in the NCAA as far as, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation that happened, obviously, at Northwestern, but if you hit a situation where you see it all the time, I mean, these kids, they will try to figure out any way they can to figure out a way to transfer. I mean, any way they can. Now, I'm not saying at Northwestern that's what happened, but I'm saying if you had another scenario where, the NCAA comes back down and they say, hey, you can only transfer one time or else you're going to have to sit out. I mean, what's to stop somebody from saying, well, Mike Leach threw me, God rest his soul, Mike Leach threw me in a closet, and locked me in there for a day because I dropped the football at practice.
Oh, that actually happened. The story you're going with.
Yeah, I know.
That's two different situations completely.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is two different situations, but I was just using that as an example, right?
And that could happen, though.
I get it, but that's just one bad example to use. Because
I wouldn't
Mike
call that a bad example, though. He's saying that, hypothetically speaking, though, I mean, the world we live in today, children, is one of those, like, where somebody can make some shit up, and the kid's probably going to win. You know what I mean? Coach is fired tomorrow. We see that all the time.
They think if it's on YouTube, then it's real.
Right. But, I mean, me and Christian are doing the YouTube channel. If you didn't know me, we'd be some hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Like, we're just sitting here, two idiots on here talking about, football. So, like, my point overall, though, you make a great point. I'm not taking away from that. You make a great point. There's this NCAA thing and this whole I don't know where it starts. I don't know where it ends, but something needs to happen where they have some sort of guidelines in place is ultimately my end all be all answer to this. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, they need to get a grip on it.
Something, yes.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think should happen with that? I mean, again, Corn, I mean, you kind of touched on, you didn't touch on the Northwestern part of it, but if there is some kind of allegations, I mean, at what point, I guess, would you sort of say, hey, this is where we draw the line?
The easiest way to do that is just picture myself in that position. I've been there. I went to a high school that didn't want me to play varsity. I thought I was good enough, so I transferred. Hey, guess what? Sophomore year, I'm playing varsity. So I think you should be able to transfer at least once. Injury, that's a more difficult situation to discuss. But if you want to transfer once, that's fine. If you do it again, I think there should be at least a 3-game penalty. You should have to sit out. You can't just keep transferring. I did it for a reason and it worked out, but these kids nowadays think they can just keep going from one place to another, and it's really just hurting themselves, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not wrong. I mean, it's, but for everybody, like you said, I mean, everybody sees it, from one lens, right? And right now, I think it's one of those situations where it really, in the past, it really only benefited the coaches and the colleges, right? But now it just benefits the player. So they've got to be able to figure out a middle ground that works for everybody. We're not saying don't pay the kids, right? We're just saying don't pay an 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old kid $1 million, you know what I mean, to play college football. Pay him $80,000.
If my name was in a college football game, I'd want a little money too.
Yeah,
and you should.
$5 million.
Yeah, I mean, and
absolutely.
And they're talking about, because there's hundreds of people are going to have to. Well, actually, I think it's thousands of people are going to have to pay. Sorry, numbers, Georgia math there, fuck that up. Thousands of kids are going to have to pay, to basically, to use their name, image, and likeness in this game, and they're going to have to pay. I think it was like the number was like $500. So they were going to pay every athlete, but that's just because there's so many different, college players are going to have to pay that they can't pay them. They can't pay everybody $5,000. I mean, the numbers on that just aren't going to, math. I mean, if you think about, hell, I'll just whip the calculator out here right now just to do that, because
they could, but they just don't want to.
Well, there's 131 FBS teams. If you do the math on that at 100 players each, that's 13,000 players. If they paid everybody $5,000, that would be $65.5 million.
Yeah, and some schools have way more money than
that's crazy.
Others, though. Think about it, right?
What do you think Nebraska makes on one game and food and beverages?
You don't even want to know.
Jeez.
You don't even want to know. With beer, if they start selling that, which has been talked about, my God.
That is close. My argument to paying the players.
Yep.
It's astonishing. Mm-hmm. And you don't even have to sell beer. Just
I know.
Chip, drinks,
$10 hot dog,
$10
hot dog, Christian's deep throating them. I mean, we know.
Yeah, bro. They start selling bourbon in this. Listen, dude. I burn really easy. They start selling bourbon at the stands. I'm blacked out. By halftime with my shirt off.
Yeah, 3 hot dogs laid on his chest, 14 in his mouth. I mean, that's where it is.
Telling everybody put me in at defensive tackle. By God, I'll grab grass.
Yeah, they can pay the money, but they just don't want to. They don't have to. There's no law yet.
No. And there's not going to be a law for some time. NCAA needs to step up here. Ultimately, at the end of this discussion, is NCAA needs to. There is such a NCAA is like the worst, like one of the most. I don't even know what the word I want to use with these like degenerate fucking. I don't want to say a company, but like they're just. They're terrible. They don't know what they're doing. They're getting overran. Now they gotta. Yeah. People are pissed at them. They're almost like. I mean, the
NCAA is like that. The NCAA is like that really shitty parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not really there until like your 12th birthday, and then they come back around, and then they want to start giving you life advice, and you're like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah, that's.
I love that you guys said that, because it brings me into another question, which you guys have talked about in the past, is college football going in 2 conferences, East and the West.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably make this like the last one, and we're gonna wrap up. Chris got to get up super early. It's not because he's got to go to work; it's just because he's old as shit. So he's got to get up before the sun cracks.
I think it's going that way, though. I do.
I think, I think if you would have asked me this, before the whole Texas Oklahoma thing, and then USC UCLA kind of jumping, I'd have probably said I don't see it. But now, just with all the moves and everything like that,
it's going.
Yeah,
and it's all the money.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about, guys. Like the ACC right now, for example. I'll end this really quickly with this discussion. Florida, Clemson are the best 2 teams over. They have been for, I don't know. Clemson definitely has been for the last 10 years. And Florida State has a ton of money. They have to get out of the stupid grant rights thing. That's going to cost them $30 million. But if they go to the SEC or the Big Ten, they're going to get paid an extra $30 million. So it's actually a wash. So that's why this is all the SEC and the Big Ten have so much money. It's now you guys want to laugh at me and sit there and go, well, how's the Big Ten have a ton of money? Well, think about it. The reason why we left the Big 12 to go all those years in the Big 12, right? Big 8 before that, Children of the Corn, you probably remember that.
Yeah.
It was all because nobody wanted to be under the Texas network, the Longhorn network, because they were trying to run their own shit down there. That's why A&M jumped when we did, but they went to the SEC. The Big Ten said, it's kind of funny. A&M wanted to go to the Big Ten. So did Missouri. So did Colorado.
They just wanted to get out of the Longhorn network.
Yep. And the only team the Big Ten wanted, Nebraska, because at that point we had won all those titles. We were super high branded, whatever. That was the only team they wanted out of us. They wanted Notre Dame super bad, and they still do, but Notre Dame is never going to leave because they have their own TV deal. That's how that all played out. And that's why we're in the situation we kind of are with the Big 12, especially. Now the ACC is in a bad spot where they're like literally they had a talk last night, Christian. I think I told you this. California and Stanford, two of the last 6 teams over there in the Pac-12. Please come over because the academic side of it. This has all become money. This is all all it's about. And now it will be 2 power conferences, guys. You guys can laugh about it. I'm not saying Children of the Corn is, but I want this on air. It's like I saw this 2 years ago. It's literally coming to a point where the Big Ten and the SEC. Yes, when you look at the United States map, it doesn't equally divide out that way, but that is what it is becoming. It will be a power conference of 32 teams and 32 teams. And the only relevant thing I can say is like, you guys look at the NFL, right? You got the AFC, you got the NFC. And that is what it will become. And everybody's getting paid an equal amount. Vanderbilt is making now what, 20 million
60,
more a year?
60, yeah.
Yeah, more than Washington or Oregon is a year, and they're not even the same fucking level in any athletic department. Oregon and Washington. It's not just about football, but this is about volleyball, baseball, God forbid basketball. Oregon basketball is great, so is Washington. I mean, this is not just about football. People get lost in football just because those are the headliners, but it's not even close, dude. It makes me sick personally because, like, I just want to see a bunch of conferences. Stay where you're at. Everybody pay everybody, and let's just play football. That's where we're at. That's why this podcast is great.
And I just want to say one final thing. I'll let you guys go. I know you guys are ready to get it off of here, but who do you think will be in the playoffs? And are they going 6 teams, 12 teams, 16, 18 teams? What is your guys' take on that? And how many teams should be in the playoff?
I think it should be, I'll say this and I'll kind of tie it all in. I'm not quite with Chris on, the 2 conference thing yet. I think because they're expanding to 12 teams next year, right? So
and
I think
you got to also say in 3 to 5 years, there's probably going to be just West Conference, East Conference.
Well, what happens here, because you got the ACC, right, with their TV deal, that's going to expire here in about 10 years. So what happens is, what would happen hypothetically, and I'll make this super quick, if, let's say, Miami, Florida State, and Clemson get on a really dominant roll, they make it to the playoffs, and they start pushing, and they start winning some titles, right, in the next, they win a couple of titles here in the next couple years, right, and they keep that conference alive somehow, right? So when they go to renegotiate the TV deal, now you've got 3 because I'm not unconvinced that Florida State doesn't shit the bed at some point and Dion doesn't jump from Colorado to Florida State, right? So if you get Dion back in this conference, you have Dion, Dabo, and you've got Cristobal, and he can get Miami turned around. The ACC might be able to do something, right? They might be able to hang on long enough. Do what?
I don't.
That's the only thing that can save the ACC.
Anyway,
Miami's the only team that can save the ACC.
Yeah, they need at least 3 to 4 teams to be able to do something to keep that conference alive on a national level. Now, as far as the question about the playoffs, again, I got to say this, Crypto's wanting us to tell you to show your face, Corn, by the way. He just wants to see you. But the other thing I'm going to say is, who do I see being in the playoffs this year? I would probably say, man, I'm going to go LSU, Texas, USC.
Woo!
And
Georgia!
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 We gotta look at the Big Ten. I'll probably say Michigan.
Damn, what kind of fucking Georgia fan are you? I'll wrap this up real quick before I get off. My 4 teams. I'll go the opposite way here. I'll start with my 4 teams. I have Georgia making the playoffs. I have Michigan. God, I got Florida State, which is I'm like the only, I swear I can't believe I'm standing up for the Florida State man. I have been all year since we started this podcast. And then I got USC. Those are my 4 teams. I'm not going to tell you who wins it.
If you had to go from 4 to 8, that's my question.
Easy. So then I add in Penn State, Ohio State. Yep. I add in LSU. And then I add in probably Texas. That's an easy one.
Why would you say Texas last?
It's not in any order. It just those are my 8 teams.
You don't think Texas could be top 4?
They would have to run the table in the Big 12 to get there.
No.
You think they beat Bama? You think they beat Bama?
No. You think anybody's going to the playoffs undefeated?
Yeah, I got 2 teams. Yeah, 100%.
I know you do, but do you believe in it?
Yeah, I wouldn't make them if I didn't, man. I mean, I don't come on air, man. And
come on.
No, I come on, man. I am what I say I am, dude.
Come on.
Yeah, dude. If I got like a small wiener, I'd come on here and say I have a small wiener. I'm not.
Who's your 2 teams? Georgia and Florida State?
No, Georgia, Florida. I think Florida State beats LSU week 1. I think they run the table after that. I actually think Michigan. So I have 3 teams running the table. I don't think Michigan loses to anybody this year. I think they beat Ohio State and Penn State. I'm a weird dude, man, but I honestly believe that.
I disagree with the Michigan decision, but hey, I love it. I love
that's right. That's right.
Guys.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you calling in. This is the I-80 Boys podcast. I appreciate you calling in. I don't have any more else to add. This was a great show tonight, guys. Thank you for the chats, the comments. The Florida man jumped in, told me how I'm an idiot. I love it. Christian's over here wearing Vanderbilt gear, bragging up how they're going to go 6-6 this year. So,
man, listen, guys, if you like the show tonight, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, we'll say it again. We're probably going to be shouting this out a lot. Yeah. You know, the giveaway. PS5, we got an Xbox Series X to be given away, some mini helmets, and then again, a custom jersey of your choice. Guys, this is going to be some great stuff here. Once we hit 1,000 subs, we're going to be giving all this stuff away. So be sure to stay tuned. Football season's right around the corner. We're excited to be back on Friday with a little bit of NFL action. We're going to be covering that game as it is our preseason too.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.